keeps me from changing zoning on your place or getting a conditional use.
Okay, folks, it is 4:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I know there are a lot of people in attendance this evening, so that I would ask that you keep your conversations either out in the hallway or keep them really low so it doesn't disrupt everything. We're in a relatively small room here. For public information, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is placed on the east wall of the Commissioners' room. May I have the roll call, please?
Meyer,
Here.
Harris,
Here.
Knapper,
Here.
Reisig,
Here.
Blue.
Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. On the approval of the agenda, I would like to make a request that we, all right, I'm gonna say this correctly. On the resignations and appointments, we move those down after the building and zoning report and move the executive session to in front of those before we speak about them. And that way all the other business will be taken care of prior to getting into that when we go into executive session. And there are 5 items that needs to be discussed. And again, I would like to do the executive session prior to those discussions, if that's okay with everybody. Anybody have a problem with that?
No.
Okay. Any other changes? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as submitted.
I move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Record your votes.
Let me over here.
Thank you. Got everything, Kelly? Okay. I want to remind everybody that the board does reserve the right to enter into a closed session anytime that we feel it's necessary. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have one scheduled. But if something comes up during the discussion that we feel that is not appropriate to be discussed in this room, we will call for an executive session. Moving on, the consent agenda. Anybody like anything removed from the consent agenda? If not, entertain a motion for approval as submitted.
I'd move approval of the consent agenda as submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Record your votes. Okay, thank you. Need a motion to move into Board of Equalization.
I move that we move into the Board of Equalization.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Record your votes. First item, public hearing on approval of 2024 permissive exemptions previously reviewed on February 5th. Robert, do you want to speak to that again, just as a reminder?
Yes, sir. Good evening. In February, I provided a preliminary list of the permissive exemption requests that were approved or denied by the assessor's office. We have the final list tonight that are ready for approval. We have 224 that the assessor's office has approved that are a combination of real estate and personal property. And we have 5 that are personal property only, and then we have 4 that were denied by the assessor's office. So those are available, 3 different packets for your signature. Me to provide these to you?
All of those?
All of these.
Every,
tonight?
233
every 4 years.
every 4 years.
Okay. Do they all require the chairmans, or can we divide it up between the, we have to, we do that during protests, where we give permission for
Right.
somebody else to do
I
it.
think that, let me see here.
Does it
Says
call for,
representative.
but if it says representative,
Signature of county board members, so it can be anyone.
okay, we'll divide it, we will divide them up then,
We can do them sometime tonight.
sometime
We don't
tonight.
need to do them right now.
No,
We don't even have a decision yet.
Yeah.
okay? All right, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the permissive exemptions.
Ken, does anybody need to speak in favor or against from the public?
Oh, that's right, it is a public hearing. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here wishes to speak in favor of any of these 204,000 pages that he left here in front of me? Anybody wish to speak in favor? Is there anybody who wishes to speak against these permissive? Anyone?
I have a question. Does that include, what's her name, Heritage Health?
VSL, yeah, for their exempted portion, yes.
The exempted portion is included?
Yes,
in
it
okay.
does.
Okay. I would still entertain a motion for approval, or
Well,
Are we closing the
we're
public
gonna
hearing?
close the public hearing. I
we're
think.
gonna close the public hearing, that's what he said. Keep me squared away here,
No,
Russ.
I'm just
Thank you.
learning.
All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion for either approval or denial of the information presented.
I move that we permit the permissive exemptions as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Record your votes. Okay, Robert, looks like you're still up.
That's right. We have two requests of a report of destroyed real property. So both of these, the first one is Robert Golden, which is a rural property, and First Church of God. Both of these were completely destroyed by fire. And the recommendation that I have as the assessor for the board's review and approval is that we take the building or the dwelling down to zero, but leave the land and the other improvements, if there's outbuildings that were not harmed by the fire, which there were, that we reduce it by the dwelling amount.
Okay,
So I have both of those for your review as well.
we'll do them one at a time.
Okay?
I'd like to make one addition to that if we could. I'd like to be sure that those buildings are cleared off before we reduce those numbers, so they aren't left there for 2 or 3 years and then, no reason to move them. I'd like to have them cleared before we reduce that amount. They generally, when we demo a building, they generally either call the assessor or ask you to come out and verify that it's gone before the
Right.
assessment
There's two different scenarios. So if we talk about the first one first, which is Robert Golden, a rural property outside of Mitchell, it burned completely down to the ground. It's just a pile of ashes.
Yeah, the ashes have got to be cleaned up.
Okay,
Those
they have not
stoves
been
are-
cleaned up.
The ashes and all that needs cleaned up.
And the First Church of God, it was severely damaged by fire, and also by water from the fire department, necessary to put the fire out. And the insurance company has already indicated on the First Church of God that they will be paying for the demolition of that building. That's the current status. And we took pictures of both of those to confirm, and I sent my crew out.
Okay. So that, on the Golden property, there's nothing there other than,
land
there isn't a
and-
building, and you're not going to tax the ashes anyway.
No,
That's right.
Right.
That's
The second one, if the insurance company has deemed it, not
Uninhabitable.
unhabitable and they're going to tear it down, is that?
we generally have to call in. The minute we finish demo, we call in and let the assessor know, and in a day or two, they send someone out. They wanna see the dirt and clean up before they'll cut it back to, that there's no foundation. If there's a foundation there, it's still a taxable foundation. They want it gone.
Okay. Let's do them one at a time. Then I would entertain a motion for either approval, denial of the Golden property, as the parcel is indicated. Then we can discuss the second one. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion on this, just on this parcel?
So I guess my question is, are we doing this, in a out of order or a different order than what we normally do? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, just that they can't claim the exemption until their people have gone out and it's clean and it's put back in order. They have to clean it up.
Yeah.
Call
I'm not-
his office and then they'll.
From a
inspect.
statute perspective, I'm not privy to any statutes for the assessor that has to be cleaned up before the Form 425 is approved by the board.
So as
we
long
could
as somebody deems it uninhabitable, then
That's right.
that's good enough for you.
That's right. And what I can do is certainly, set a follow-up to make sure that the First Church of God is demoed.
Okay, well,
as planned.
let's stay on the Golden property first, please.
All right, I'm all right.
So we have a motion, and did we have a second on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, is there any other further discussion? Record your votes, please. Okay, now we'll move on to the First Church of God. Would you want to delay this one or approve it?
I would
Approve it.
recommend.
He'll be able to start the date when it's cleaned up. I mean, he'll
Right.
start the date when it's gone. I mean, that'll be what he does is.
Okay, but he's also indicating that there's no statute that really requires that.
That's
Is
right.
that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I would request that the board approve the changes and then at the assessor's office
Then
can
the
follow up.
paperwork is taken care of it.
That's right.
If anybody else moves into it, then automatically it becomes a taxable piece of
Yeah,
property.
We'll definitely keep an eye on it.
Absolutely, okay? Is that satisfactory,
That's
everybody?
not the way they've been doing it for 25 years around here, but I guess if that's the way we're
We,
gonna do it.
we didn't have the Form 425 until about 4 years ago, so he's just doing what he's supposed to do. The property owner has to file this prior to July 25th, I believe. I might be wrong on the
July
date,
1st, I believe, yeah.
but
Yeah.
they have to meet that deadline, and it's different than just simple demo work. They're telling the assessor their property was damaged by fire.
Right. I
It's
got
not the same as the demo work that you
you.
do
I realize, but if the
necessarily.
building's still standing there, generally, it doesn't matter if it's burned or what. If it's standing there, I mean, it's still a structure. And it's uninsured, it's really a nuisance to the county, and that's why the way we've always done it in the past was we called it in, and when it was demoed, and they took it off that day. Or they sent somebody out the next day to verify it, and then they took it off that day. You guys can do it any way you want to, but that's the way I've been doing it for 25 years.
I think what we just did on the last one was we approved it, and we're gonna leave it in Robert's hands to deal with it the best way possible.
That's what I say, that's what we'll do.
Okay, do I have a motion for approval on the First Church of God parcel?
I move that we approve the tax exemption.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Record your votes.
Oh, we got one more here.
Okay, thank you.
I'll bring those up for your signature. This will require the chairperson.
Put it over there, cause then, all right. Thank you, Robert.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Next item is receive the tax list corrections. We've seen all those. Anybody have any issues with those? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move to accept the tax list
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Record your votes. Okay, next item, discuss, consider approval of 2 motor vehicle exemptions for Gearing Prep Baseball. Heather,
Hi. So
Hi.
I have 2 vehicles for Gearing Prep Baseball. The total tax loss is $302.40. These vehicles were previously exempted, and I would recommend approval. They are for a nonprofit organization that are used to transport players and coaches. Funding for this program is funded by charitable donations. Does anyone have any questions on this one?
Are
Okay.
these two new ones?
No,
Did you
they
say?
are renewals.
Renewals.
Mhm.
I
Anybody-
move approval of the tax exemption on the vehicles for Gearing Prep Baseball.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Record your votes, please. Next item, discuss and consider approval of 4 motor vehicle exemptions for VSL Gearing LLC.
So, these 4 vehicles, for VSL, were previously in the prior company's name. It says VSL is a nonprofit LLC with a single member, Vetter Senior Living. VSL is a nonprofit that engages primarily in public charitable foundations in its ownership of skilled nursing, assisted living, home health, and hospice facilities and agencies. The vehicles noted above are used exclusively in the purpose of providing these services part of their nonprofit or operations in healthcare. The provision of charitable care is a charitable use, and the company's organizational documents prohibit any private benefit. They requested 8 vehicles be tax exempt. Of the 8 vehicles, only 4 remain with motor vehicle tax, and the total tax loss on these 4 vehicles is $199.
Okay.
Do we have a certificate that shows that they're nonprofit of any sort?
I would assume that's filed with the assessor's office with the paperwork for
Yeah,
their,
Are they totally nonprofit? Are they just 501c3?
They're partially.
they're the
they're
partially
only
exempt.
partial.
We do have a permissive exemption in that stack for them.
It's pretty borderline.
I'm not gonna look for it.
Go for it. It's probably at the bottom.
Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
I move that, we, approve the, 4 vehicle exemptions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Do we know how many vehicles they have that are not, exempt?
I do not. I know that of these 8 vehicles, 4 of them will be exempt. 4 of them will not be.
Cause I think their facility is,
And with vehicle exemptions, there is no partial exemption.
well, I was just gonna say, just anecdotally, the main building is only 10% exempt and the cottages are 100% or are not exempt.
They're not exempt.
So I would just like to see some sort of breakdown of, are they exempting all of their vehicles? Are they just doing a portion of them? It should be it should be in proportion to what their real property is. That's my feeling on it. So if they could maybe bring this up another time and ask them, which vehicles.
And I can do that. I do know that they have sent this out to a lot of counties across the state, and, most of the county, I think almost all of the counties have given them the vehicle exemptions that they've requested. But like I said, the tax loss on these 4 is only $199, so it's even less than what we had on the baseball. For,
Well, it's not the dollar amount, it's the principal.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, record your votes, please. Thank you. Okay,
You have 3 yes and 2 no's.
thank you. Moving on to Road and Bridge. Discuss, consider
Okay,
chairman's,
We need to leave the Board of
Oh, I'm sorry.
Equalization, please, and I need to catch up.
okay,
I will make a motion to leave the Board of Equalization.
is there a second?
Second.
Record your votes, please.
Well, like I said, I need to catch up, so.
Okay, hang on, let us know when we can do it.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Road and Bridge, discuss and consider the chairman's signature on professional service agreement with Speece Lewis Engineers. Stephen?
This is a new agreement that Speece Lewis has started doing this year since they have become part of this Bowman company. So this will be an annual thing now with them. Every year that we'll renew this agreement. Simply a professional service agreement. They state what their services are gonna be to us, and in return, we state that we're gonna pay them their fees. So,
And these are for just strictly engineering?
yep, these are strictly
Just for
engineering.
bridge engineering only, isn't it?
Oh, they could do road, but I usually just use these guys for bridge. So they're structural engineers that can do the bridges, so.
And you've had a good experience with them in the
Yes,
past?
yep.
Okay. All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we approve the chairman's signature on the professional services agreement with Speece Lewis Engineers.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Record your votes. Okay. Next item, discuss and consider chairman's signature on task order agreement for engineering on project C 79-419.
So at the last meeting, when we tabled the River Bridge project, you asked about what the engineering project would cost for the oversight. That is what that contract is there, is an estimate of what the engineering oversight would cost.
Okay,
So, in addition.
So we're like 416,000 over budget or out of,
So with the shortfall of the
shortfall.
construction shortage of 233 and then the engineering of 237, we have a shortage of $470,916.
Where, okay, I talked to you earlier and we're gonna explain where that's gonna come from.
This project will cover 2 fiscal years, so we'll just spread it out in the budget over 2 fiscal years, this year and the next year for the fiscal years. And I kinda gave you a rough breakdown on a sheet I hope you got of how much in each year we could use to pay for it. Lisa said that, she might have some Keno money to help or whatever if need be. I also have some money in, the buyback fund that we can use if necessary, so.
okay. Before we go, can everybody hear what he's saying? I didn't think
I
so.
don't think the volume's up on these very well.
Is John still here? Can you check the volume on this one, John,
Get any closer,
Turn
I'll be
mine
for
up
whatever
too.
reason? I couldn't, I mean, I could hear you fine, but I'm not sure that it's getting out to everybody else.
We can only hear you, Ken. You're the only one we can hear.
None of the other commissioners either?
There's nothing coming out of you. I'm right up here. I mean, I'm talking right here. There's nothing coming out of that thing.
Test.
Very light. So what I was telling you a minute ago is there's no sound coming out of it. Usually it pops.
They look nice. They look like we're official. Okay, let's hang on for just a minute till we get some volume on that, Steve. I'm never gonna get home tonight.
The writer's cramp.
Bring a cot. All right, talk.
Can you hear me now? It's better? Worse?
Can you hear it now?
No?
Okay, Russ, why don't you talk and make sure that
Can
Tina
you hear me back there?
No?
No,
No.
you have to talk into it.
Well, I'm not talking right into mine either, but they can hear
It
it.
ought
I
to
think
work a
these need
little
to be
bit.
turned up, yeah.
No, I think it's the person's voice.
No, you can
Personally, you
adjust
gotta
the-
speak out.
You can adjust each mic back
I
there.
just turned right into it when I spoke. I'm speaking
It's
now. Do you
getting
hear me
better.
now?
But now we
getting
can
better.
hear you.
Don't hear me now? I don't know.
Yes.
I
it's
can
getting
hear you,
better,
but I'm
Russ.
not sure everybody else.
They can't, so I don't know what more I can do.
Is that other side turned on?
Talk like you're hollering at one of your truck drivers. No, I don't say.
You'll probably try and leave.
But we'll know what you said.
Okay, try it again, Russ. Try it again.
Oh, can you hear me now? Do you hear what I'm saying?
I'm getting some nods in the
A
back.
little bit better, I think. I can kinda hear it going now.
If you could turn it up even more, John, that would be appreciated.
Alright.
We have a room full of people here. I wanna make sure everybody's able to hear.
That would be great.
All right, try it again, Russ.
Here we go. Do you hear me now? Can you hear me a little bit better? Now Steve can try.
Now, Steve, try yours.
Test. That sounds a lot louder
That's
here.
better.
Yes.
Okay,
Good,
very good.
good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, John, wherever you're at. Don't leave yet, just in case. Okay. All right, Steve, you're still up, buddy.
Okay, so where would we leave off? So we will pay for this over 2 years, fiscal years. We'll budget it partially this year and then partially in 25, 26.
Keep talking.
So stick this in your mouth.
As
Mine's
soon
gonna
as
be
you
in my
stand
mouth
up
pretty
to
soon.
face
And
them,
then,
get away from them.
Lisa also said she has some Keno funds or maybe some capital improvement that if necessary we could get into. But I also have some buyback money left in buyback that we can get into if necessary for it. So
Could you repeat the total amount that you said for everybody to, between our shortfall and the engineer cost? What was the final number of
the
shortage?
shortfall is $470,916.40.
Thank you.
The construction part of that was $233,438. The engineering costs were $237,478.40.
The construction costs were 2 million, weren't they?
The shortage was only
Shortage is
233,000.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Shortage, okay. So what's the total job figure gonna be total when you total it all out? 2 million what?
161. Yeah.
That-
It's right here. Right?
So the total construction cost is 2.1 million, 2,161,252,000.
With engineering?
Then the engineering's another 237,478. So I don't have my calculator. So that was 2,300,000, about 2.4 million total.
That sounds better, okay. That, at least we're covering what we're doing.
So
Okay, do I have a motion for approval? I've lost track now.
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any other discussion? Record your votes, please.
Russ, you were the second?
Pardon me?
Were you the second?
I was.
Okay, Steve, I think you're still up.
okay, and then the last one is just to approve the bid from Kia Constructors for the 2.1 million to get the bridge.
That was tabled from the last meeting.
Yes, that was
That's
tabled for
2.1?
2.1 million. The next closest bid was
If you
2.5.
ask me to, I will.
What, make the motion?
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'll make a motion, we accept the bid from Kia Construction.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion? Record your votes, please. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve. Under general agenda items, discuss and consider the approval of the special designated license for Papa Moon Vineyards. Caitlin Massey. Is she here?
Uh-oh.
I think
Sheriff, oh, here comes Sheriff. I was gonna say.
Are you gonna speak on this, Mark?
I can speak on this. This is for the Cattlemen's Ball. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, we've been involved in the planning for the Cattlemen's Ball, and there's another, you've already approved, another SDL for out there. There's another company doing it too, I think. Hotel 21 or the WeWork Center is doing part of it. So, the planning in that is extensive. They're gonna have security on staff, in place out there. We're gonna have deputies out there, so.
They can't hear.
They can't hear anything, Mark. You need to speak up. I'm sorry.
That thing needs a little work there, something.
It just-
It's not all,
I thought I
I'm
was
sorry.
getting
I
pretty
didn't
close to
design
it.
the system.
Maybe we need to raise it.
Yeah.
Do something.
I'll just tell you, we have no objections.
Okay.
This is Papa Moon's. They've had a lot of SDLs. They usually come in every year and ask for a bunch of them, and they've done that for several years. We've never had a single problem with them.
Okay,
So I'd ask you to approve it.
all right. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll move to approve the SDL for Papa Moon Vineyards.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Record your votes, please. Thank you, Mark. Next item, discuss and consider emergency bylaw amendment regarding the meeting time of the Scotts Bluff County Visitors Committee. And I don't know who's speaking on that. It looks like Brenda's coming.
Well, Lana.
You're gonna have to
wasn't-
speak into the mic, dear, I'm sorry.
Lana wasn't going to be here,
Yes?
so, we didn't prepare for her, so I'll go ahead and speak. But-
So you're letting her off the hook?
Yeah.
Are you really?
Yes. I know, I'm gonna get even with her, don't worry.
Okay.
So in your board packet, you noticed that I sent out a paper similar to this, yes. Okay, so, we would like to consider a bylaw change, and the highlighted area, denotes the old bylaw. And then down towards the bottom is, how we would like to change it. And the major change is just the change of the time to the meeting. It used to be at 1:15, and we would like to change the time to 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time and still use the Legacy of the Plains Museum unless otherwise noted, so we can plan ahead for the meetings. And we would like you to consider this amendment change to our bylaws based off of three major reasons. First of all, we would like to accommodate the commissioner liaison serving as the ex officio on the visitors committee. And number two, it would be to improve communication between the governing body, the visitors bureau, myself and everyone on the committee. And then also to accommodate those that don't work in our industry. It's really easy for us to get away during the day to attend a meeting. For them, it's going to be easier for them to be able to come during their lunch hour. So in other words, for somebody that's not working in the tourism industry that has a grant application that could be heard. And we noticed a couple weeks ago when we were working on this that we have some major changes that need to be made to our bylaws. So we will be coming back, forthcoming with those in the next couple of months.
Okay. While we're on that, we had also talked about appointing a alternate in case you weren't able to come. And I'll take the criticism for that. At the beginning of the year, we should have alternates on all of these other committees that we serve on. And some we do, some we don't. And we need to really take a look at that so that we have representation on those boards that we have to represent. So, we can handle that, if that's all right with everybody.
And ours is just a little bit different because we have the Nebraska Visitors Act that we're trying to follow, so that
Right.
Governing body person is very important to making our committee work.
Okay. All right, we'll discuss the alternate here,
Yes.
maybe not tonight, but
Yeah.
we have a lot on our plate this evening.
I
so
see
we'll take
that.
care of that. Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
So, yeah, Charlie, are you, have any opinion? And then I have an opinion about some stuff, so, go ahead if you want.
I'm gonna ask that we, well, first here, I'm gonna go just to get you guys up to speed on, these bylaws are bylaws that the commissioners put into place. These bylaws were not, created by the tourism committee itself.
Was
And
that at the time that we hired Brenda, when those bylaws were put in effect?
The latest version of the bylaws doesn't have a date on here when it was put into place.
Okay.
Probably before Brenda.
Oh, yeah, it was way before me,
And there is a provision in the bylaws that state, these bylaws may be altered, amended, or repealed by new bylaws, and new bylaws may be adopted by formal action of the tourism committee at any regular or special meeting of the tourism committee. It also says, the Scotts Bluff County Board of Commissioners reserves the authority to waive any provision of these bylaws showing good cause to do so. So, you know, ultimately, the authority lies with this board. Of course, we want to take into consideration the recommendation from the tourism committee, because they're all volunteers. We wanna help them make their jobs as, we wanna be able to accommodate them, cause the work they do is important. However, I would like to see the meeting held in the evenings. You know, there's a lot of other boards, that do hold their meetings in the evenings. County Health Board was volunteer, that was in the evening. There's some other, you guys have any others that meet in the evenings?
Yeah, the extension board is.
Extension board is in the evenings. I think that also frees up time for folks to come to, you know, present their grant proposals. Going at noon for a 2 or 3 hour meeting doesn't really make it any better than going at 1:15. I would really like to see an evening meeting, and I would really like to see the location returned to the commissioner's room, just for some separation there. You know, I believe the bylaws say that we meet in the tourism, or in the commissioner room, but for some reason, we've been going to the Legacy of the Plains, really since we got back together after COVID. And so I'm not in favor of this bylaw change. I appreciate the efforts. That means a lot to me that we did, you guys listened, and, you know, but it's not the result I was looking for. I would like to see an evening meeting. So that's where I'm at with it.
Mark?
What I was gonna say was, my goal would be to make it as, simple and conducive as possible for, the public to be able to, attend the meeting. And when you mention noon, if it was an hour-long meeting, then maybe that helps. But it was, just recently I was talking to Bob Bush, and he was telling me of the process that the commissioners went through many years ago. This meeting used to be held at 9 o'clock and then was switched to 4:30 with the intent of trying to make it, more available for the public. And I think tonight, when we look here tonight, that, we would say that a whole lot of these people wouldn't be here if we were holding this meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning. So my point only is that I just wanna make sure that whatever, decision that we make is that we feel that it's helping the public as much as possible. And I also realize that, as was pointed out, that we have volunteers on the committee, which is, I understand that, and I think, certainly we wanna help with their schedule as well. And some would suggest probably that evenings is good, some would suggest not. And, so I'm basically willing, to listen. I didn't know what Charlie's feeling was on this, but I know he's part of the committee, and so, but I'll listen to whatever these others have to say.
I will make one other note. There was some discussion about not having a set meeting location, but rather moving the meeting to different locations. You know, meet at the fairgrounds a month, and meet at the Legacy another month, meet at, you know, the Hampton Inn another month, and coming here, you know, going to the Midwest for a meeting, just to kind of liven things up and get things going that way. You know, we've got a lot of entities that rely on tourism, and if we could draw them into the fold that way, I think we might get better participation.
Okay, anybody else? We're actually not, not doing this correctly. We need a motion and a second, then the discussion, but we always have the discussion first, but that's, we'll make an exception here. I'm going to ask, is there anybody from the tourism committee that would like to speak that you know of? You're going to now. Well, come on up, please.
Probably need to come up. You know, I have had a chance to kind of think about this, and
Go on, get to the
everyone
mic.
knows that I don't know that there's a perfect time to have a meeting. I've kind of talked to Brenda, I've talked to Charlie, I've evenings. Noon was kind of what we settled on, for the fact that for those of us that are volunteers on the board and hoping to make a change, that might be okay. Maybe an hour isn't enough. It might be enough for those coming for grants and that possibility. I do think it'd be enough for that. Because a lot of times they come, they give us, you know, their grant information, and then they do leave. Because they do need to get back to work. I don't know if I have another night to fit in. Yes, I could. I guess I'm just saying, I don't know if there's a perfect time. This was a start. This was just a simpler start to hopefully make some accommodations for, you know, the liaison that does represent the commissioners.
What kind of
So,
feedback are you getting from your committee?
you know, Tina's here. It's hard. It's hard to find that perfect time. This was just a time we thought we could make and see how it worked out. And we felt maybe for, you know, there's times we do have people that bring in their grants, and like I said, they come, they spend their 10 minutes, you know, presenting it or whatever. It could be longer, and then they need to get back. I don't know if an hour would be long enough, but, you know, I think we could format it to maybe accommodate those with grants and with you know, something they came to say. I don't know, you know, for the public, I agree. It would be nice to participate more. We're back to, it's still a time thing. I don't know people's night schedules. I don't know if they're attending children's things, grandchildren's things, their own things, other meetings. I don't know. But we just thought maybe starting with the lunchtime would maybe be a good benefit for the committee. You know, if Tina's got something different. I do like the fact, and I did mention this about moving them. I'm not the one bringing stuff around and carrying paperwork and this and that, so I understand that. Even for the Ag Society, it would be hard for me to drag everything to a different location to hold a meeting. But I do think it'd be kind of neat to get out to those entities and stuff. But maybe that's a different conversation. You know, this was kind of starting point.
Sure.
So that's where I was with the time frame of the meeting. So I don't know, Tina may have something different to say.
I'm also part of the committee. I think that we're just trying to accommodate Charlie and the commissioners and make sure that we have attendance at our meetings. And so whatever we can do in order to make that work for the committee and the commissioners, and just to make sure we get as much attendance and I guess community attendance and acknowledgement of what's going on. is really
Charlie,
the
were you
effort.
on that part of the discussion when they were deciding all this?
No, I'd met with a couple of the committee members outside of a meeting, and we were just brainstorming on how we can change things up and
Okay.
help accommodate my schedule. You know, noon meeting was a good start, but I thought the discussion was we would try noons, you know, kind of in my off season rather than this busy season. You know, September through March, noon would be great. April through August is an awful time that there's just no time for me to get away from work, so. So I would really like to see an evening meeting.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the committee here that wants to speak? Okay. All right, what's the board's pleasure?
Well, there's no perfect time for a meeting, cause I struggle with that too. Half my meetings are evening, half time are daytimes, and so it's a real struggle. And I have to kinda prioritize sometimes, so I'm gonna move to approve the noon meeting.
What was the motion again, Mike? I didn't hear it.
I move to approve their change, the bylaws to the noon meeting.
To the noon meeting, okay.
Right.
Is there a second on that motion? I'll second it. Is there any other discussion?
The other piece of this that we need to address is not just the time, but the location. I think if we're not gonna move the meeting around to different locations, it needs to be in the commissioner's room. This will go hand in hand with another item that we have on the agenda later.
Okay. Any other discussion?
The only question that I had was, I mean, I suspect you've talked about it at more than one meeting and maybe several, but after all of this discussion that has been had tonight, the question would simply be, does it help any to go back and discuss it again? But if not, that's the only question I had, was whether or not to table it for till our next, after your next meeting or something, see if there's any other thoughts based upon this discussion. But that was my,
It's not an emergency item. That's not something that has to happen tonight. So it might behoove everybody to maybe talk on it a little bit more and come back with another recommendation possibly. Okay. Mike, would you remove your motion?
I'll remove the motion to approve and,
I'll,
move to table.
I'll remove my second. Now I need another motion to table then. And that's your motion?
I move
Okay,
that we
Mike
table it.
Mike has made a motion to table. I'll second that motion. Any other discussion?
So as him being the table, he'll have to bring the item back on the agenda?
No, it wasn't voted on.
Oh.
Only if it was voted yes or no. Only the affirmative vote can bring it back. Any other discussion? Record your votes, please. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
And we'll work on that alternate for you too. Okay. Next item is to discuss and consider approval of fencing.
We'll make it quick.
Thank you.
I just wanted to bring it before the board to ask for permission to get rid of this. I'm gonna have to leave that fence out there, that's out there, that snow fence, that ugly snow fence. I want to ask for permission to go out and put a more decorative permanent fence up across there.
Okay.
The 20-minute parking area across right here in this parking lot.
Just on that north side of where the
Yes.
grass is,
30
okay.
minute?
Yeah.
You're gonna change it to 20?
What?
You're gonna change it to 20 minute?
It says 20-minute on
It
it.
says 30 when I drove
Oh, well, maybe I'm wrong, Russ.
up. Okay. It's 30.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were changing it.
So what kind of fencing are you looking at, Jay?
I don't know yet. I just wanted to get approval, and I'll get some different designs or
Just to
whatever.
keep people from walking
Something more
across that new
decorative.
grass?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty simple.
Okay.
and that's the, right out here.
Yep, just right here where the
And
parking
with the
for-
intent to keep people from walking across there.
Do you have it in your budget to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's the board's pleasure?
I move that we approve, Mr. Steiny's, request for fencing on the north side.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? Record your votes, please. Well, I'm trying. There we go. All right, thank you.
Did you have any, where you at on the fuel, Jay? Did they get you hooked up?
Excuse me?
You get the fuel lines hooked, or did you get along with the?
They got
fire
up here
marshals?
today, spun the tank today and, out there, and he's tying them up today, so.
Okay, next item is receive update on clerk of the district court window remodel. Jay, you're still
went
up,
out
buddy?
went out for bids on that, only received one bid, $2,794 on that, from Anderson Shaw. I signed the contract on it, so.
Was that within your
Yeah.
estimate? Okay. All right, what's the courts?
Make a motion to accept bids for,
Thank you.
I,
Do we have to?
from Anderson Shaw.
All
I
right, is
don't
there,
have it for you guys to vote on. He was, just since he was here, he was gonna
oh,
give
it's
you
just an
update on
update.
his-
Oh, it's an
Just a
update.
report,
really.
never
Oh.
mind.
Okay.
It's
Never
low
mind.
enough,
It's
doesn't
under
need
the
it.
50,000 recommended, doesn't have to go out.
All right, thank you, Jay. All right, next item, discuss and consider resolution requiring all public meetings held by county officials to be recorded in both audio and video format, that's what I said, and then available for public access online 24/7.
So
Charlie?
I was sitting in my recliner about 3 a.m. one day, and I decided I needed to review the audio from the planning commission meeting, and I had no way to access the recording. I had to email Bill. Took a day or two from there to get the recording sent to my email. It came in a liquid file, which expired like 48 hours after I received the email. It's just been a real pain to access the recordings. It's 2024. This kind of stuff should be available with the push of a button at a moment's notice. So I would like us to be able to record all meetings digitally, both audio and video, and have those items uploaded to a shared file at the very least. There's no reason why a member from the public can't go on to Spotify and click to listen to the commissioner meeting or a planning commission meeting. You know, they can listen to it at 2.5 times the speed, you know, get through these things quickly. But there's just no reason that I can't access this stuff, or why you can't access this stuff at a moment's notice. It'll save time. It'll avoid the public having to come in to ask FOIA requests, that sort of stuff. It'll be available. These are public proceedings. They should be available anyway. So, from what I understand, there'll be some infrastructure upgrade, you know, to this room. You know, some software purchases that will need to happen to make this a possibility. But again, this is not 1984. When I was in the or maybe it is, right? When I was on the health board before we dissolved the county board of health, we were, and this is just a few months ago, we're using a tape recorder to take the minutes of the meeting. That tape would run out in the middle of the meeting. We'd have to pause the meeting, eject the tape, flip it over, and push record again. I recorded the weekly top 40 from the radio the same method back in 1989. So this is where we need to be, and that's what I would like to see happen.
I'm trying to think of all the other boards. Are there any of them that do not meet here that you can think of? Planning Commission meets here, Region 22 meets here.
Tourism should meet here.
Tourism would be another, but I'm trying to think of another board that doesn't meet here.
Personnel committee meets here.
Personnel committee does meet here. Insurance committee.
IT committee.
Advisory board?
The 911 advisory board meets downstairs.
And they have a camera and all that good stuff, right?
So that could be recorded in that location.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a good launch tech system down
Okay.
Well, I'll just
We're
say
gonna
that,
have to double check all of the scheduling too, to make sure that this room's available too, guys. Don't forget that part.
right, I agree with the concept. There's some logistical things that's gonna have to be dealt with to make it work. And then the question is, is there a current staff person that we would look to do that? Because not only is it gonna need to be recorded, but then posted, and then, but I know, that some of the other city council meetings around town and whatever are certainly easier to access than our things are sometimes. And so I agree with the concept, exactly who's gonna do it and how it gets done. And again, which meetings specifically would we expect to be on those recordings? And we ought to try and make as complete a list of those as we can. But we've named about 5 of them here tonight. And I think those are all fine. I suspect any and all the meetings that are subject to open meetings laws and things like that it would be a good idea.
What about your, staff meetings, Lisa?
They're in here.
They're in here, but are they a public meeting?
No.
Are they advertised?
No, I don't advertise it.
Okay. So
You
they,
know, and for those meetings, those could be, you know, on a shared file, only county employees can access. They don't need to be public.
but they still need to be recorded.
They still can be recorded, and they can still be just as accessible for commissioners and other staff members, other elected officials. There's a lot of times when I wonder, hey, I'd really like to check in and see how that personnel board meeting went. And
We record them. We're getting them on the website now, so.
Okay.
But not video.
Okay, what I'm hearing is that it's gonna take some time, obviously, for folks to get that lined up. And if it's the board's pleasure that all of those meetings be held in this room and recorded, then we need to make sure that John or somebody else is available to set that up for all those meetings, and to make sure that we go through the clerk's office to make sure that that room is available at the time of those meetings. So it's gonna take, there's a little logistics here that we need to take care of for that.
I think, be wise to maybe ask Bytes to put together what sort of upgrades need to happen, what sort of software purchases need to happen, and work that into their budget year for next year. Maybe some new microphones.
Okay, what's the board's pleasure? It is up for consideration. Do we have a motion?
Do we need a written resolution to do this?
I
It
don't
says
think so.
Discuss and consider resolution.
That's how you put it on there.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know that a resolution is necessary. It could be just a board decision. I don't believe Dave, what do you think?
No, you can go ahead, it doesn't need to be a resolution.
Without a resolution, thank you.
Alright, I would make a motion to require all public meetings held by county officials to be recorded in both audio and video format digitally and available for public access online 24/7.
Is there a cutoff date of when all this needs to happen? Because of the logistics.
By September 1st.
By September 1st, okay, that's included in your motion.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Can I just make sure it's emphasized that the public meetings, not the other
Yeah.
internal?
Anything that is advertised, okay?
That's fair.
I think that makes it,
I think, yeah.
clarifies that.
That probably helps a bunch, because there's some of these things, the meetings with, department heads and what do we call that group? I'm not sure that has, or should be
That's not a-
fully and totally public. I mean, cause you're talking about strategies of how you're dealing with certain things, and
that's not an advertised meeting then. Right.
You know, I read my motion exactly off of this, agenda requiring all public meetings held by county officials.
Perfect. Thank
We
you.
can go back and check the recording. Right?
Yeah, that's how it is on the agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, record your votes. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move things around here a bit, and jump down to the building and zoning with Mr. Maven. I'm thinking that this is gonna be somewhat of a lengthy conversation,
can we take a 5-minute?
and I would love to take just a quick 5-minute break, if there's such a thing. You're dealing with a lot of old people up here, Robert. We'll be right back, Bill. We're gonna start again. Okay, we,
Hang on, I lost my pencil.
obviously. Okay, next item is under building and zoning. We do have a 4:30 public hearing to discuss and consider Situate Energy Preston Trust conditional use permit request, utility solar facility. I'm not gonna read through the legal description, it's all on your agenda. So Bill, we'll let you open with any comments that you may have.
Sure. I think everybody's familiar with the location of this, but it is around approximately 10 miles south of Stegall, down off of Stegall South, and I believe it's County Road X, as shown on the map here. Sorry. The highlighted red area right around here is the actual boundary. This shows the solar array in the boundary. And so just want to get to the key points from the Planning Commission meeting. At its meeting on April 9th, 2024, the Planning Commission made a motion to recommend approval to the Scotts Bluff County Board of Commissioners, passing the motion by a 7-1 vote. As part of its recommendation, they included a list of conditions to mitigate potential adverse impacts on neighboring properties and roads. It was also recommended that the county board take into consideration the possible use of a cash escrow for financial security and the possibility of adding the county to the facility insurance policy. I did send you those email out. Marvin Planning did state that there was their advice not to have the cash escrow. And I did talk to a representative from NERMA who said definitely don't want to be added to their policy. That would be an added liability. So I did send that email out, I believe, on Sunday. So if we want to get into how it actually relates to the zoning, the actual zoning regulations, the section 5.102.105 of the Scotts Bluff County zoning regulations lists power generating facilities and related uses as a permissible conditional use in the agricultural zoning district. That's exactly what the permit application here is for. And then section 10, which pertains directly to the conditional uses in the regulation, states that the conditional use permits may consider, among other things, the regulations of the applicable zoning district and all other ordinances, laws, and regulations of any governmental jurisdiction, and shall be in harmony with the character of the area and the most appropriate use of the land. 2, the adequate water, sewer, drainage, and open space for light and air. 3, the design of ingress and egress to prevent congestion of public roadways. 4, the promotion of public safety, health, convenience, and comfort. 5, the conservation and stabilization of the value of property. And 6, noise, air pollution, odor, glare, vibration, fire hazard, physical appearance, and liquid waste. So these are what you're taking into consideration when you are doing your conditional use permit. So this is the proposed conditions of approval that the Planning Commission approved and sent along. And going back to what we talked about, they were discussing the insurance and some of the decommissioning stuff. So we did have an amendment and added that in here, and it'll be on the handouts in orange. But I'll just run through these real quick, and if you have questions, just stop me. So on item 1 here, just saying who the assignees and operator are, required to fulfill the obligations of the conditional use permit. Number 2, the operator is to comply with all federal, state, local laws that apply to this operation. We have that on all of our conditional use permits. There are several other government agencies besides Scotts Bluff County that this permit has to go through. Item 3, this permit is just describing what the use is for a utility scale solar energy conversion facility, and its appurtenant uses as a power generating facility. So all the other, I guess it would be any other uses that go along with the main use. I mean, you're going to have other items besides just the power generating solar array here. You got the battery storage and everything too, but that's all part of it. Number 4, operator shall submit an application for a Scotts Bluff County building permit signed by all property owners in conformance with the conditions of approval within 1 calendar year of Western Area Power Authority's notice of completion. So they have to hook up into WAPA's system and an interconnect, and there's an upgrade that has to be done for them to actually even get that going. So basically within 1 year of when Western Area gives the green light, then they have to get that building permit, or essentially the conditional use permit will expire. So the building permit application shall require site plan sealed by a Nebraska licensed engineer or surveyor, showing a scaled drawing of.
Yeah, I guess my question was, it says here, the building permits need to come in within 1 year of the Western Area Power Authority's notice of completion of all system upgrades. When will those upgrades start?
I'll let the representative of Situla address that. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so as part of the building permit, they will have to submit a plan, just so showing basically where the solar array and the batteries and everything's going to be placed at. No site work shall commence until the building permit is approved. So they can't even start digging out there, putting in a fence or anything like that until actually the building permit's approved. So number 5, a road use agreement shall be approved by the Scotts Bluff County Highway Superintendent before the building permit mentioned in item 4 shall be issued.
I'm going to suggest that our condition, this board's condition on that one, be before the condition should be before we approve a conditional use permit, because we want this to, we need that to be ironed out before we approve a permit. That is one of the main conditions that we've talked about as a board for several months now. So waiting until the building permit process seems pointless if we don't have that condition met as part of the conditional use permit. I don't want there to be any negotiations on road use after the conditional use permit is approved.
Can't we put our stipulations on after he gets through with this if we're gonna move?
Okay,
that direction?
he just suggested if we have any questions.
Yeah. Oh,
I just want to, as he's going, that's kind of how I was
That's a
going.
good, okay.
Yeah, there's going to be a number of these, so I just want to go as we're going.
Okay.
Let's make notes of this. I don't want to get to the end and have a list of 20 conditions that we need to add and forget 4 of them.
Okay.
I want them to be recorded. So that's how I was going. If you want to wait till the end, I guess we can wait till the end. But I'd rather just go.
No, I'm just saying this one here, but that'll move over, so, I mean, that'll be something that will change. This is what they've approved.
Right.
So
Right.
we agree on will be a different deal.
Sure, and I'm just reading off what the planning commission passed along right now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So anyway, there was a road agreement that was in the actual project plan, and I believe Steve said that they would agree to terms on that one that was submitted in that project plan. So anyway, on to item 6, a copy of an approved power purchase agreement shall be submitted in full as part of the building permit process required in item 4 of these conditions.
I'm gonna chime in there also. I would like to see a power purchase agreement as part of the conditional use permit that we're supposed to approve. I don't know why we wait for building permit to see a power purchase agreement.
Well, it seems to me that until they apply for a building permit, we don't have any authority of anything. That's just what I'm thinking, maybe I'm wrong, but.
We have to approve, the planning commission's recommendations, either yay or nay, before you can even issue the building permit.
So Western Area Power is not going to do anything until which time they've made those system upgrades. And they're not going to do that until which time this has been approved to move forward.
Correct.
If you do not approve this, they're not going to do the system upgrades.
That's correct.
So it's the cart before the horse thing.
Okay.
Item 7, so this was just using screening. I mean, obviously this is going to take a while for any screening to take place, but just using screening to hide the solar array. So it's going to be required to be between the roadways and the solar arrays, plus in between neighboring properties, just to get a little buffer zone. They wanted to stay. It was the Nebraska Department of Roads. They have a 300 feet off of a roadway because of drifting on snow. So it was Steve's idea. We go ahead and kind of match the Department of Roads standard on that. Item 9, all exterior lighting is required to be downcast with opaque and translucent shielding. So that goes kind of along with the whole, the pollution as far as that goes, of the sky. The conditional use permit applies only for use in such designated location as shown in the project plan. If they want to do a substantial expansion, they'd have to reapply for approval from Scotts Bluff County Commissioners to do any expansion. So item 11, the Situla Energy Project LLC shall submit a decommissioning plan as specifically set forth in Appendix B of this instrument, and I'll get to that here in just a second. And this is one that we added in because of it was in the motion to recommend approval where they were talking about the insurance, and that's what I told you before. I got a hold of NERMA, and they recommended that you don't want to have yourself placed on the policy, but you can be placed on there as an additional interest. That way, any correspondence you would get a copy of that if the operator was to terminate or revise its insurance coverage. And item 13 basically just says when in compliance with conditions 1 through 12 here, such conditional use can be transferred to all owners, operators of the above mentioned property and their successors.
You missed number 8.
Number 8, yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we have a performance standards in the zoning regulations, and that was kind of what I read off earlier about the noise and the odor and all that stuff. So just requiring them to meet that, and a proper mitigation for fire hazards as required by the local fire district and or other authority having jurisdiction, which usually means like the Nebraska Fire Marshal's Office. Operator shall submit written approval by the fire chief or the AHJ of the site plan and operation plans as part of the building permit application required on item 4 of these conditions. So same thing, they'd be required to submit that. It would be the emergency operation or the emergency plans before the building permit gets approved. Operators shall offer a site visit and training for mutual aid fire departments upon start of operations and annually thereafter.
I guess I'm confused why so many of these conditions wait until after the conditional use permit is granted, and we're waiting for building of the facility. Why aren't they conditions that have to be met before? You know, why can't we have this hazards may be required, or performance standards for local fire district? Why do we have to wait until after the conditional use permit instead of before we approve this.
Well,
It
because
makes
they
it-
haven't purchased any of the equipment yet. They have no idea what they're gonna use for their battery, the storage system. So I'm sure a lot of that and their specifications are actually gonna determine what your operations plan is, your emergency operations plans. So the thing is, they can't stick a shovel in the ground until the building permit's been issued, so that gives them that much time to come up with what they know they're gonna have.
So here's my concern is it looks like Situla is applying for a conditional use permit with no intention of building anything. Like they're gonna go out and sell this conditional use permit to another entity.
That I cannot tell you.
And I think we're getting into a situation here, where we could allow that to happen. Situla has no skin in the game. Situla's coming here to get possession of a conditional use permit with no skin in the game. And they're putting all these conditions on the building permit portion of this process rather than owning those conditions themselves. That is a huge red flag to me. Situla from the beginning has told us that they plan to own and operate and sell the power themselves. And this does not look like that is the case whatsoever.
Okay, two things are gonna happen. Situla is the one that has applied for the permit. Okay, the permit is not going to be issued until all of these conditional uses are approved. Okay, then the permit is issued. That permit can be pulled at any time if these are not met. One or all or any of them. Is that correct, Bill?
Right, you'd be in violation if
You'd
they
be in
did not.
violation
This
of-
is a contract.
That's exactly right. So at any time, on any special use permit, there's a lot of things that happen while construction is going on, after construction is completed. So not everything is going to be done prior to them putting the shovel in the ground. And I think we need to understand how the process works a little bit, and not get it confused with, well, all of these things have to be done, all these items need to be met before you can do anything. If Situla backs out or decides not to do it, or whatever the case might be, the permit is in Situla's name, not anybody else's.
It shouldn't be. According to state statute, it has to be on the landowner. You have to own land to get a conditional use. I can't get a conditional use for your land. You can't get it for mine.
Okay, who made-
You have
who-
to apply for the
who
land.
applied- who-
Landowner has to apply.
Who applied for the permit, Situla or Preston's?
I do not know.
Is jointly, so we put Situla's name on there, I'll being the operator,
Okay.
but Preston Trust is the landowner.
Okay,
You want me to go ahead and go through the
Yes.
decommissioning plan details real fast?
Please.
And then I can turn the mic over to a representative from
Yes.
Situla here.
I'm just gonna, before we do that, I'm just gonna go down to number 13 here. It says, when in compliance with conditions 1 through 12, such conditional use permit shall be transferred to all owners / operators of above mentioned property and their successors. So this permit can, according to this permit can be transferred to anyone other than, to whoever Situla decides to sell this thing to. And that's a concern of mine, that this is just an instrument to sell. This is an instrument for Situla to sell to somebody else. And that, I'm not okay with that. I will strike 13. I am not okay with this going to any other operator other than Situla. And we'll get into more of that later.
I'll just make a comment on that, and that's that I'm a believer that this project is gonna get sold numerous times over the next 10, 20 years. Now, I may be wrong, but really, whether it is or is not sold, as long as the requirements are there and they're, being met, and this talks about that all such conditional use permits shall be transferred to new owners or whatever. But I'm just of the opinion that this type of project could get sold, I'll use the term often. I may be wrong, but
I've got a situation or a example of that. There is a project in Graham County, Arizona that was permitted 4 years ago and has sold 12 times since then. And not a single piece of ground has been broken. Not a single shovel has gone in the dirt, but the permit, the lease, those instruments have been sold like bonds on a market. So I just want everyone to be aware of what we're dealing with, and this goes back to the fact that Nebraska and Scotts Bluff County this is our first experience with a situation like this, and we don't have the know-how or the experience or the current regulations to protect our interests here. So more on that will come here as we continue through this.
What would be what is your concern, as Mark said, if this is sold more than once or whatever the case might be, of a different owner besides Situla?
I don't believe this is a good faith effort to build a solar facility. I believe this is an attempt to hold a piece of paper that can be sold and bought on the open market by interests that may be adversary to us. Now I got plenty more to go. So let's let Bill keep going.
Okay, we'll just get in the decommissioning plan here. So at the expense of the permittee, the gross estimate for the decommissioning cost of the approved solar facility, including any estimated resale salvage values, shall be prepared by a Nebraska licensed professional engineer. Such plan shall include the means, procedure, and costs of removing the solar facility components. The estimated decommissioning cost shall be guaranteed to one of the following forms of financial security: surety bond or letter of credit from a financial institution reasonably acceptable to the county. That's your choice. We had in there the escrow cash. Like I said, the guys from Marvin, they just basically discouraged that. So the operator of the solar facility shall maintain the financial security thereafter as long as the solar facility is in existence or upon discontinuance, decommissioning, and or abandonment of the facility. Such financial security shall be payable to Scotts Bluff County and shall be updated every 5 years, commencing from the date of acceptance and approval of the security by the county board. To cover the costs associated with the updated decommissioning cost estimates. Talking to the Marvin guys, the part here in orange, we added that in after, like I said, the discussion with the planning commission. All future decommissioning cost estimates will be prepared by a Nebraska licensed professional engineer. Failure of the permittee to update the guarantee as provided above within 30 days of the professional engineer's determination of future decommissioning cost shall be an automatic revocation of the conditional use permit, and the county may then collect on the financial security, and the county or a designated third party thereof may enter the property to physically remove the installation. That's basically just part of the decommissioning. We're just describing the purposes of this instrument's discontinuance, decommissioning, and or abandonment shall mean the solar facility, after being commissioned as defined by the statute, has ceased energy production for 12 consecutive months. At the end of such 12-month period, the operator shall have 12 months to complete decommissioning at the solar facility. If the operator of the solar facility fails to remove the installation in accordance with the requirements, it's the same thing. It's continued. It's considered discontinued, decommission, or abandonment. May collect the financial security, send in a third party, clean it up. If the operator, there's an exception, if the operator would provide substantial evidence updated every 6 months after initial submission of evidence to the county board, they would be able to, the intent to maintain and reinstate the operation. That was put in there in case they were to break down and maybe couldn't get some parts or something that they needed. We all just went through COVID and saw how sometimes the transportation line gets broken down, so we thought that was fair to just give them a chance. They'd have to come in and actually get that extension from the board. For the,
Just, are you still on decommissioning? Okay, go ahead.
yeah, we're just basically trying to cover all the bases.
Yeah, I got one more too. when you
Okay. For the purpose of this instrument, the term decommissioning cost shall mean all the costs associated with dismantlement, recycling, safe disposal, facility components, site reclamation activities, limited but not limited to all gross labor, equipment, transportation, disposal costs associated with the removal of the solar facility, all decommissioning activity management, site supervision, site safety costs, any other costs, including administrative costs associated with the decommissioning. And we added this one because inflation was brought up during the planning commission meeting. We just added that in here to shall account for inflation, cost, and value changes and advances in decommissioning technologies and approaches. And the last part here is just basically another definition for the purposes of this instrument. The term solar facility component shall mean all equipment, infrastructure, fences, landscaping, including but not limited to solar panels, collectors, battery, energy storage systems, substations, switchyards, generators, transmission lines, electrical wiring, cabling, conduit, racking, facility roads, fencing, any other related supporting infrastructure to a minimum depth of 3 feet. Typically, they don't really do anything, I mean, other than maybe if they were going to put in a building where you would even have anything beyond that permanently. So such components shall not include any public utility infrastructure.
Well, you touched on inflation there, and I think one of the biggest hedges we have on inflation is the real estate. The real estate will follow inflation the same as whatever the demolition costs are going to be. And I think we need to have it, because there's not going to be very many of us here in 30, 35 years to be sure that this is cleaned up. So it's not, it's really a moot point. So what we need to have in place is something to lien that property to where the property pays for the cleanup if everything else fails. That there's a lien on the property be sold for the cleanup to make sure, because we're talking about our grandkids finishing this deal out. And I think we need to include something in there that the real estate will be forfeited for the cleanup if all else fails. Because the stuff that you're talking about so far, every one of those items is gonna fail. We don't even know if you'll have that security in 30 years from now. But the real estate will still be there, and that'll be something we can lien, and that whoever's on this board at that point can tie onto that, and that's, the landowner will have to forfeit that to clean it up if it goes that far, if everything else fails.
Bill, let me ask you a question. Do we have any ordinances that require people to clean up their properties in the rural area?
There's nothing in there that specifically would force somebody to clean anything up. If you were to be in, let's say, violation of, let's say, a salvage yard or a junkyard or something, then you could go in there, but there's nothing specifically that.
So do you have the power to somebody clean up an abandoned junkyard?
I would have to issue a violation, which would then go through the county attorney's office.
Violation based on what? An ordinance or a zoning regulation?
Yeah, it would have to be based on, we have junkyard in the.
Generally, you'd seize the property in order to clean it, wouldn't you? No, that's what you normally do, you'd seize the property. If there was no other funds available.
I'm not 100%. I've never had that happen, so.
I mean, I think the reason things become junk is because people can't afford to clean them up. And this is what is protecting us from that.
Well, I would just say, though, Marvin Planning did actually recommend doing the surety bond as
Okay.
in terms of the financial security. That was what they.
But that's a lot of expense and things that are, that's pie in the sky, they'll never get around to it. If we can save them all that money.
Please talk into the speaker chorus. Very innovative where it gets your sound, so you have to talk into the mic.
Into the mic, all right. Well, I'm trying to look around here and talk, but, yeah. Like I said, I know there's a lot of instances.
You have to get your
I'm
chin.
sorry.
You gotta get your chin on that thing.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. But, like I said, I've been involved in some big cleanups from out of state and different places, and that's the way it normally wound up, is that sold the property after the big cleanups. I cleaned up some wrecking yards down in Wyoming. I've done some big jobs like that. And they sold the real estate when it was done. But there's a big lengthy process to go through to seize all that and go through, and it's a big hassle to, take that over. It's very simple to put it in the thing right now. If they don't clean it up, you start either mortgage property or you sell it. You got two choices, but get it cleaned up.
So you do have the power.
He does.
Bill, you do have the power to
For
make.
this particular, it's
for
built,
this-
it's
for
built
this-
right in here.
For this
Right.
one. But if that weren't in there, let's say it's not in there, and Situla walks away from it, and you've got all of these solar panels, do you have the power as the building and zoning director to force the Prestons to clean up that property?
If it was determined it was a salvage yard by law, you would, because that's what's in the regulations.
Okay.
Or a junkyard.
Or whatever, yeah, okay.
What, why did, was it Marvin that said, don't consider cash? What was that thought?
There was, explain something with bankruptcy for one. If something's going to bankruptcy, then the court might go ahead and be able to take that right out of the account that you had set up. Or two, most of your FDIC is only insured up to a certain amount of money, and they're talking a very vast, large of money. You'd have to have several bank accounts to spread that all out to be covered by the FDIC.
Yeah, no one account would take care of
It'd
it.
take a lot of
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay.
I'll sure pass the mic to the guys from Situla or whoever's going to
Right, and
represent.
then and it's obvious we're gonna have some concerns on what we're going here, and we'll discuss all of that. So with that, Scott, if you'd like to come forward. Just for the record, name and address, please, Scott.
Yeah, my name's Scott Ickes. I am I live at 3430 Corral Drive in Rapid City, South Dakota, and 57702. I am VP of Business Development for the Situla Solar Energy Project. And yeah, I just wanted to, very initially, I wanted to basically make the board aware that can everybody hear me back there's okay? One of the key concerns all the way through the process of this of seeking the zoning permit, the CUP, was the safety issue, specifically fire safety and the development of the emergency response plan. So I just wanted to make the board aware. Yeah.
So if that's been one of the biggest concerns, why was that conversation with Kiowa Fire Department not until today?
Again, I think there's some confusion with respect to a project development process, right? I mean, these projects. The best answer to that question, Commissioner Knapper, is that we haven't selected the technology yet, right? These are site-specific emergency response plans, customized to the technology and the site specificity, and we're just not there yet, right? We think we're going to be using technology similar to the Tesla Megapacks, but again, that final decision hasn't been made, and we will be relying, as do all solar developers in the country, we'll be relying on a lot of the direction of the technical direction with respect to safety and ERP development and just we'll be relying to a large extent on the manufacturer's guidance with respect to the technology that we end up employing at that location. So part of it is just the natural progression of doing a large scale. Commissioner Reisig, you would be familiar with this. Just doing a large scale capital project. There's a very sort of defined project chronology in terms of when and why things happen when they do. And so yes, we did have a well attended substantive call today. The initial call with our two main Wood engineers doing the bulk of the heavy lifting on the engineering on the project. We had an initial call. That call was about 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we had a call with the Nebraska State Fire Marshal's office, the head of their plans division, and had an initial sort of break the ice call. That set the state where we sent over our engineers from Wood, who specialize in ERP development, sent over a draft framework that they utilize when they're developing these emergency response plans. That was sent to the Nebraska State Fire Marshal's office, and then so we sort of introduced the project to them. We showed them the open house slide deck that we used here in town for the open house, and then the moral task. So we introduced the project to the Nebraska State Fire Marshal's office. A lady by the name of Kaylin Lovegren sent us the current list of Nebraska State fire safety codes, which our Wood engineers then took the last 2 weeks to then, I don't know, for lack of a better word, to work those codes into the current, what they're calling a basis of design document, which is which is part of the information we reviewed on today's call. So we didn't want to wait because of the concern that the fire safety issue and the emergency response plan development, the weight of that issue, we didn't want to wait until we wanted to try to get as much progress made on that particular topic, even though we haven't made the final decision yet with respect to the technology. So what you're seeing, Commissioner Knapper, is the natural progression of the process to develop that ERP. The call today was, as I say, after the Wood engineers had taken the Nebraska State Fire Code information, inserted it into their framework ERP. Then we held a second follow-up call today with Ms. Lovegren from the Nebraska State Fire Marshal's office, Doug Hobein from that office, John Dodds from that office, and then we also invited Mike Kindred from the Lyman, Kiowa Fire Department. Although he was unavailable, his sister attended on his behalf, Michelle, and then Nathan Flowers here from Gehring as well. And then also we invited Dana Reese and Todd Wright, and they were on the call today as well. And then there was Thayer and myself from Dunlay Energy and the Situla Project, and our two Wood engineers. So today was a fairly substantive call. We reviewed 3 pieces of information, the sort of updated basis of design document, and then a much more detailed Excel version of a much more detailed model, which we've committed to circulating to everybody on the call today. And I'll be the main point of contact, managing the ERP development process through time, and we'll take this process in terms of the plan development as far as we possibly can up until we've selected which technology we're going to use, right? Because some aspects of the plan are going to be technology specific, and so that's, as I say, I think under normal circumstances, because we hadn't made the final sort of technology decision, my guess is many projects wouldn't have gone this far on the ERP, but because it's been such a Commissioner Blue, you mentioned it for the very first time we spoke of it, so I know it's been a key issue for you and many of the members, the constituents of Scotts Bluff County. Particularly at that, as evidenced by a lot of the comments at that zoning meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, it's a key issue. So we didn't want to wait. We wanted to try to go ahead and get started on that project and take it as far as we can, as I say, until we make the decision with respect to the specific technology we're going to use, as I say, because we'll be relying on the manufacturer's guidance with respect to how to fire suppression and those how to handle the equipment from a emergency response planning perspective. So that's where we are on that and then on that issue. And then I think that was the key message I wanted to deliver, is that we hear the concerns of the community, we hear the concerns of the commissioners, And we want to make a Herculean effort to try to address every single one of these issues adequately to allay a lot of the fears going forward. And as I say, make this a successful project for not only Scotts Bluff County, but you know, mutually beneficial for Scotts Bluff County and the company. So that's
Okay.
that's about
Thank
all
you.
I can say. Yeah.
All right, here's, with the board's permission, how we'd like to do this. This is a public hearing, and I'm sure that there's a lot of folks here tonight that want to speak in favor or whatever. I'd like to limit it to 5 minutes if possible. Scott, you're going to be sitting right here in front. If there are any questions that you could answer, I would appreciate you answering those. Again, we'd like to limit that to the 5 minutes being a public hearing. I would ask, and then we can go back and address the conditional uses that we're looking after we listen to the comments by the public, if that's all right with everybody. Okay. So with that, I will ask if there are anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor, of the adoption of this permit. Come on up, Kim. And I'd also ask anybody that comes that you state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Kim Bowman. I live at 1755 19th Street in Gearing, and I'm here for the project. I have no interest monetarily in it, but I think we're fighting progress, gentlemen. We're putting these folks through all kinds of hoops that they've agreed to, but you keep adding to it. You can't play ball like that. So it's, to me, it's a project that's gonna have financial impact for the county. You're gonna get some money when this is up to speed, and we need money. We keep talking about it going to rack and ruin when it's over. That's the Preston Trust, really, that's their issue. They're taking the gamble, putting this land up. So I don't think they're not the type of people just let it look like hell if it walks off. So I'm for it, and I think we should quit throwing hoops in front of this company and approve this conditional use or whatever it's being called, and let them get the ball rolling.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? Yes, come on up.
My name's Greg Brown, live at 1200 O Street, Gearing. Once again, I have no financial interest other than I follow macroeconomics, and I did work for the railroad for 18 years, and this energy source is getting produced somewhere, because coal used to do 49% of the electrical use. It's down to 29%, I think now, maybe even less than that. So when there's a scare tactic of solar doesn't work, something's working. Either natural gas, solar, wind, and I believe we live in a state that is pro-economic, or we feel that we're, what's the word I'm looking for? I thought we're more hands-off. And by following this project through the news, it seems like you guys have done, not you guys I shouldn't say, but it just seems like you're trying to put stipulations in place that weren't in place before it was supposed to happen. And so I don't understand, if they meet the conditional use permit that was already in place when the initial filing happened, why are we trying to put, like he said, stuff in the way? And if I'm not mistaken, it's a net benefit for the county, dollar figure wise. If I'm not mistaken, Morrill Schools is in deep trouble. And if by what they posted, the influx of $900,000 into the school system, and I think you represent that area, don't you?
I live in Morrill, I'm not, but I don't represent it. But anything.
No, but you live in there, right?
I live in that district.
And you represent that district, right?
I do.
Okay, so if you had a chance for $900,000 to fall from the sky.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was on school board as well, and any local contribution that's made is deducted from state aid. It goes right in and right out to state aid, so it doesn't change anything.
But if there's extra $900,000 coming into the coffers?
State aid off the back of it. When you put it in the front door, any local contribution, your property tax, your any kind of a income into the school district will be counted as local contribution.
Local
Your local
contribution.
contribution will be deducted off your state aid.
No, but you're gonna
You
get
know-
aid to the school, correct?
And then they'll deduct it off of state aid. If you put 1,000 in, they'll take 1,000 off.
Who takes 1,000 out?
State aid.
But I mean, I'm not here to negotiate how.
Well, you wanna know how it works. I was on school board, that's how it works.
Okay, and if we wanna know how it works and why, I mean, we're all for private ownership, correct?
Right.
I mean, you staunch Republican, I'm guessing?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so private ownership, right?
I agree.
Okay, so if a person owns a property and they wanna put something up and they have an agreement between two private entities, why are we as a government entity throwing a bunch of roadblocks? I really do have a hard time getting my head around. We always hear about, oh, they were gonna build the Budweiser plant or whatever, which I always think that's all
That was
pie in the sky. That's all pie in the sky. But here we have a situation where $880 million project. I mean, you said you've been part of big projects. What's the biggest project you ever part of?
Nothing like that.
Exactly. So that's some huge money that's gonna come to this area that we don't know how many jobs could be created from that. And for us to stand and put stuff in the way when we know, like, this ain't the first solar farm to be ever put up. So let's be proactive for once instead of being such Debbie Downer and worrying about the cleanup.
Well, there's
You
a lot-
know,
there's
because
lot
do
more
you have a
involved.
decommission plan on your place? Because when I drive in from Torrington or whatever, you should decommission that. I hope you have something in place for that.
I do.
You do. I mean, it's bonded and you got it all insured and all that, right? So that when you pass that along, it's gonna get cleaned up with all that junk you have laying
When
out
we-
there?
when we- when we-
As
when
one
we-
of our thoroughfares
When
coming
we
into the
stop selling
town.
junk- When we stop selling junk, we'll clean up everything.
Okay, well, I hope it's decommissioned, and I hope you have a bond for it. You have a bond for it? For your property?
No, I don't.
Just like you're asking the private landowner Prestons to do. So I'm really confused at why we're not being proactive. Instead of reactive, or like, man, there's just no way it's gonna work. It's just no way it's gonna work. I think there's a darn good chance it does work. I mean, logistically speaking, why would they choose there? Gee, I don't know. Overhead power lines? Right there? The sun's pretty shiny around here? Like, why quit being this government entity that's putting roadblocks in front of everybody? Just like he said. I know I don't do it as proper as you're supposed to, but at the end of the day, it's more money for the county, net, and, I mean, we have a sugar factory that never got decommissioned, because it's still sitting there
Right,
in the
that's
city
why
of
we're
Gearing,
trying
right?
to, we're trying to avoid that.
Okay, but this is private landowner. If they wanna build a pyramid with those things when they're done,
Sugar factory's private landowners as well,
okay.
you know.
But this is the what if mentality versus let's be proactive and let's make stuff happen for once. If it generates 5 full-time jobs, that's pretty darn good.
We've got 2 empty sugar factories right now full of asbestos. Asbestos wasn't a problem in
Okay,
that
but
day.
we're not
Just a minute.
talking about that.
We are. You wanna know why those sugar factories are there? Those buildings at that time, asbestos was not a hazardous material. We don't know what's in these things anymore than those people knew what asbestos was. Now these factories are sitting here, the pigeons are going in and pulling that asbestos out and it's blowing out of them. Nobody's making an attempt to clean them up, they're just sitting there.
Are they, is this project, I mean, like I said, I haven't followed it other than, it just seems like there's been roadblocks. But are they asking for any public money from us county people
No, they're
to
gonna
make
get
this
federal money,
happen?
they're gonna take federal money.
Okay, federal money is not county money, all right?
Still comes out of your pocket.
Okay, well, but once again, I believe it's something that's gonna, like I said, now, if this was the very first solar farm to ever go in, then I can see why you guys are having so many issues with it. But they're not reinventing the wheel. You went out and found one that's having a problem,
I don't think we
right?
found one.
That, you found one that they're trading the conditional use permit, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
How many other solar farms out there have been built, though? I mean, you're finding the negative in it. How many positives are there? Like I said, at the end of the day, it's job creation, any way you want to look at it, from the building of it to whoever has to maintain it. And who knows? I mean, if you're generating that much power, WAPA might have to add another guy too. I don't know. All I can see it as is, I mean, as a county, we see people giving, and I don't know how TIF money works and all that, but none of that's involved in this. But yet we give it out so they can build Reganis, and we can hand it out, and that's from a county level.
Do I have a minute to tell him where the power's going to? He's been here quite a while, and how much time has he got?
Well, I mean, I just want to say, put roadblocks. Let's be proactive for once in this
Well-
county instead of reactive. I can leave it at that.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? Anybody else? Come on up here, sir.
Well, we're on it, so I guess we're in favor of it if our name's on it.
I'm guessing that you would be,
So I
yeah.
guess I just wanted to make sure there was no doubt about it.
And whose land it is, right?
Yes, and it's
Is
Don
you.
and Jack Preston's land.
Okay,
And we're in favor of it, and that's, if you wanna know where I live at 19272 Preston Road, Lyman.
okay.
And we're in favor of it, and we see there's risk. There's risk in everything we do, but it's going on CRP land. It's already in a program, so it's not taking land out of production. And I appreciate everybody worrying about us. I never had so many people worry about how I'm gonna turn out with this deal. It surprises me. It's
A lot
like
of people care about you,
yeah,
evidently.
they do. They're really worried about what happens to me and what happens to mine. And we're you know, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Absolutely, come on up.
I'll probably be in the negative here. I'm Dave Mecklem. I live 10 miles south of Steele and 1 west. On County Road X. I'm already affected by this. County Road X is a dirt road. I've got land that adjoins this project. I'm across the fence from it. I would like to know how my land value that I've worked all my life for is gonna be affected by this project. How many tens of thousands of dollars will I potentially lose because I'm so close to this project?
Can I ask you a question, Dave?
Yes.
What do you think the negative effect is going to be on your land with that project sitting next to it?
I might throw that back to you, Mr. Meyer. You're in the real estate business. I don't know. How much is my land values gonna go down because I'm across the fence from this project and my other land is contiguous, very close to this project.
And again, I'm gonna throw it right back to you, Dave. Only asking what, in your opinion, is going to be the negative result of that project being next to your property? Other than it being there, but is it going to harm your property in any way?
Do I answer that or?
I'll
Sure.
answer for you, sort of. Point you in the right direction. 2DOT Consulting, which has been hired by Situla Energy, has put out some numbers that talk about the decrease in property value that you can expect to see. And maybe Scott could share those numbers, or
Okay.
I could pull. I've got it somewhere in here, but it's here.
I don't know what the value would be. I'm just concerned that it's gonna be on the negative big time because I'm so close.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, don't get me wrong. Somebody just needs to convince me of what's going to happen with this project that's going to decrease the value of the adjoining property. I really honestly don't know.
My concern, and here again, this is the first meeting I've been to. I haven't talked to many people, but my concerns is dust on County Road X, all of the increased traffic that's gonna be there. When we get a north wind, I already get some dust. Granted, it's a half a mile away, but some of it comes there. We get big trucks going by there all the time. And a lot of them are gonna come by my house. There's gonna be increased traffic in the whole area.
You're thinking more traffic than what's happening right now?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
there's gotta be. I mean, there's gonna be hundreds, not thousands of truckloads of produce, of product coming in for this project. There's gonna be construction people. That's gonna bring crime, potential crime to that area. Potential drugs to the area. I can't say how much. This is just what I feel. what I'm concerned about. The gentleman over here said we need to be proactive. You as a group need to be proactive. That's right, but we need to be proactive against the negatives. All this stuff that you went through earlier, that's a lawyer's dream. The lawyers will get into this. Well, you need to clean this up. You didn't clean this up. You got to do that. Anybody that's been involved in a land contract knows that they don't come in one pages. You know, nothing's simple. It's complicated. It's the stuff you don't see coming at you that's gonna blindside you down the road. I can see why this is a big project, why it'll probably go forth. Well, let's look at the guys like me, and I'm not the only one. Every project out here, every project in the whole country is gonna have people that are close to it, that are gonna be stepped on while the project is being built. So continue with your being proactive against all the negative things that can happen and make sure that it doesn't happen. I don't think it's right for people like me. I've been there, I was born on that place, I was 2 years old when we moved there. My family's been there for 75 years. It's my nice little building site that's on County Road X, 1 mile off the highway, that should sell at a premium. That was gonna be part of my retirement, part of my children's inheritance. Is it gonna continue to be a prime real estate, being a half a mile away from this project, where all the traffic is, the crime, potential crime, the potential drugs?
I've got a number here. A recent study showed a decrease of 1.5% in home values within a half mile of a solar facility.
What was that percentage again?
1.5%
1.5% decrease, okay.
That's, they're just talking about home values. They're not talking about ag land, prime real estate, homesteads. I'm imagining
What was the biggest number you gave?
1.5% decrease.
That would surprise me if that's all it is. If that's what it is, that's what it is. But I don't think it'd be that little.
I don't think it'd be that little either. This is from a consulting company that was hired by the company that
Come on up,
wants to build or obtain a conditional use permit.
Okay,
That's
all right,
all-
we're,
Say that again, cause I thought we hired this company.
No, Situla hired 2DOT. We hired Keith Marvin Consulting.
okay, to keep things in line, and I know your concerns and we're listening to that, Dave. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak in favor, and then we'll go back to the negative side of everything?
May I just
Go
make
ahead,
another
finish up.
comment and then
Yeah.
I'll be finished?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yes. And it's not just this project, but Banner County and Wyoming have declared some weeds noxious weeds that Scotts Bluff County has not. Common mullein is one of them. Toadflax is another. It's coming out of Wyoming. It's coming down that draw. This project property is covered with common mullein. It's not the only property in the area. I fight it. The neighbors fight it. It's being fought all over Banner County. At this point, Scotts Bluff County hasn't declared that a noxious weed. They need to be proactive on that.
Okay.
Because common mullein seed, one plant will produce tens of thousands of seed that will last for decades in the soil. This land is covered with it. I have land that's got it bad too.
Sure.
So they're not the only ones, but that is a concern,
Okay,
and it should be addressed.
okay, very good. Thank you, Dave. You have a response to that, Kim?
Dave, you're concerned, my name's Kim Bowman again, and Charlie too. You're concerned about land values, but if you go up and look at the solar farm that's in existence up on the cemetery, there's $1 million houses there. So you can't tell me that's depreciating any land. There's 2 right now, new holes have been dug. So I think that would indicate it has no.
You can compare
this 1.5, Charlie, does that refer to land, or is that refer to residential, or
It
what are they talking?
refers to home values only, and this is from 2 Consulting, and
Okay.
Commissioner Harris found from Keith Marvin the same number, same number.
1.5, okay. I'm gonna continue here, cause I think there's a lot of people that like to speak. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak in favor of the project? Anybody?
Reg Preston, 3719 Five Oaks Drive, Scotts Bluff.
Can everybody hear him?
Microphone check. Actually, Bill had it right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Can everybody hear me now?
There
All
you
right.
go, thank you.
Thanks. Reginald.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. For months of attending these meetings with my dad and my uncle on behalf of the project, it's clear that we've observed stringent focus in this county on avoiding cost. I've observed this board have conversations about pens, pencils, and paper. I watch Heather come up and talk about hundreds of dollars of lost tax revenue for vehicles. We're discussing very small numbers. But this project represents probably the single biggest opportunity in your tenure, however long and illustrious they all may be, to bring Scotts Bluff County to a position where it no longer has to be arguing about pens and pencils and process in the courthouse, and working to avoid the 2.5% trigger for the pink postcards, which I think that was a meeting or two back where you all five agreed that you didn't want to have to send out a 2.5% postcard because you have to keep your property values down. But in this inflationary time, you are not going to be able to avoid the costs that are going to steamroll over us as a community, and you're going to have to look for opportunities to grow your tax base, our tax base. So therein you have an opportunity. As for the Citizens project specifically, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of inquiry, a lot of questions, a lot of support, a lot of rational basic curiosity, a lot of emotion, in some cases borderline anger, but they have all been opportunities for public comment. And this is the thing that we all come together and we share as Americans, that most countries around this world do not have this opportunity to do. And I spoke to you once before in January. When we're done here, we're all still neighbors. I'm still going to be neighbors with Dave, right? No matter how this goes. So we can't get too out of hand. We've got to be professional, and I appreciate your efforts to keep it on track. I'm one of 6 of the next generation, so we had Jack get up here and speak. Jack and Don, my father. There's 6 coming behind. There are 4 total in this room. Of the 4, we've all left and come back to this community, right? We all went away and did whatever we did professionally, and we've all come back and we continue our own personal lives here in Scotts Bluff County because we chose to, because our family's been here for generations. I do not envy your position tonight, as you have to weigh all these facts and all the focus and all the discussion. And frankly, it's going to come down to your ability to sort through the relevant from the extraneous. And I don't mean to besmirch anybody's concerns. I don't mean to besmirch anybody's questions. They're all genuine, no matter what they have to say. But it's going to come down to the opportunity and weighing the good versus the harm and the detriment. No matter how this goes, you're going to get phone calls. You've probably already got dozens of phone calls. I'm sure your constituents call you all the time to tell you what a fine job you're doing. You're going to get that and more starting tomorrow morning. So thanks for your efforts in either direction. But I'm going to leave you with this thought, if I haven't already gone over my time yet. As the second generation, as one of 6 of us, I also am all in. And I think I can safely say we are all in. And I will ask you if anyone could please point out to me who is going to lose from this project. And I will offer a mild counterpoint to Dave, which is, I too am concerned for Dave and Dave's heirs, his daughters whom I know and went to school with one, for their potential capital gains when this area becomes such a solar hotspot and his property has such value as a solar lease, he may have a serious capital gains concern. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Again, anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the project? One more chance. Anybody else in favor of the project? All right, we'll switch gears. I'd like to hear from anybody who is not in favor of the project. And again, we're gonna try to limit comments to 5 minutes, which is really not gonna include any questions. We have Situla sitting here and Kyle Long, who is the legal representative for the company. And hopefully if there are concerns or questions, you'll be able to answer that. And if it's all right with the board, we won't add that into the 5 minutes of whatever it is they're doing. I want to make sure all the questions are answered.
Get it all on.
We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak and get their concerns answered, and so, okay.
Thank you. My name's Mike Hort. I'm the president of the Kiowa Rural Fire Protection District. I'm not here in favor or against either one of these, of this project. I'm here because the day at 1 o'clock was the first time we have been notified.
You want to use that other microphone, Mike? It's
Hello?
on. There you go. Thank you. They can't hear you in the
Again,
back.
my name's Mike Hort. I'm the president of the Kiowa Rural Fire Protection District. I'm not here for or against. This project has been talked about for a long time, and today at 1 o'clock was the first time our fire department, which encompasses this solar project, has ever been notified. We contacted these people at the Morrill, whatever that was called, public meeting, and gave the number to our fire chief, and our fire chief was busy, so Michelle, the rescue captain, attended. There's a lot of questions. This project, it may be years down the road, but if there's any special equipment that we need to do to fight this fire, or EMS or whatever, I know you've talked to Nate Flowers at Gearing. This is in our backyard, not in Nate Flowers' backyard. And I realize he's the president of the Mutual Aid Association, but if you're gonna play in somebody's backyard, don't you think you ought to talk to us too? Instead of waiting until tonight to either yay or nay this project. I don't know if you're aware, we just purchased a $300,000 ambulance. Took us 1.5 years to get it. If we need some sort of special equipment, we're 1.5 years, 2 years out. Our budget is $50,000. That ambulance is $300,000. Any fire apparatus that we might need to fight any fire or a situation out there, it's gonna be $500,000. Plus, the other problem is, we're out of room. I'm in the process right now of trying to figure out how I'm gonna come up with $1.5 million to build a new fire station. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and again, I'm not for or against it, but if you're gonna play in my backyard, come talk to me. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wishes to speak against the project?
My name is Casey Debus. I live at 60512 County Road P, Lyman. And just to answer a couple of questions that were asked earlier, is the name on the zoning request application does not include Preston's. It is in the name of Situla Energy Project, LLC. And as far as the Preston Trust is concerned, on December 29th, 2023, the Prestons moved all of their land into an LLC called the Preston Peters Homestead, LLC. It is no longer in a trust. So I would like to start out by looking at the timeline. Dunley was created October 11th, 2022, and Situla was created in June 1st of 2022, both LLCs in Delaware. Why is this important? Because the conditional use permit cites a critical issue analysis report from January 26, 2023, and a site characterization study from March of 2023, and the permit itself is dated September 6, 2023. I have not had access to either report to read them. Have you? If due diligence was done before filing, don't you think they would have taken more than 2 months during the winter to study the site? The application itself is riddled with holes and inconsistencies. In Appendix B, the road use agreement is not detailed enough. It says, look at an attached map for the impacted roads, and it only covers the county road immediately next to the proposed site. There's no pavement identified. Appendix C talks about how vegetative screening is the preferred manner instead of fencing in Nebraska. Is the county prepared to follow up and make sure the company is making sure this gets established? In this appendix, they also list mowing as the main method for vegetative management. Yet company representatives have insisted they will use grazing. The nearest wildlife management area is closer than they claim. It is within a mile, not several miles. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service identifies 4 wetland areas in the proposed leased area. The company has not conducted a study, and they do not have a wetland delineation. Appendix D talks about stormwater management and that their plan is only available upon request. Shouldn't this be on file with the county? As for endangered species, there is a letter they have cited from the Game and Parks. It was not included in the application, and I asked for it towards the end of March, and Mr. Mabin requested it for me from the company. That tells me no one on the Planning Commission had asked for it, let alone read it. Appendix E talks about perimeter fencing. What happened to the vegetative fencing to allow free movement of wildlife? They're also very vague about their recycling plan. Other places require companies to update their commissioning/recycling plan annually and have it on file with the county. Is there a plan to make sure the county roads will be repaired after decommissioning? The road use agreement and decommissioning plan were not clear on this point. Appendix F concerns emergency response. Section 3.3 implies that the site manager is there daily and the workers will have continuous training. This is not the impression the company gave at previous meetings. Lastly, I would like everyone to think about the size of the project. 4,240 acres that they are leasing. A football field is 1.32 acres. That's equal to 3,212 football fields. A typical city block is 5 acres. That is equal to 848 city blocks of solar panels, of disturbed earth, of disturbed habitat for native species, and we as a county have no regulations for the company to follow. And if you have not read all 170 plus pages of the application, you should not approve this permit. And one other thing I'd like to address is that Nebraska Statute 70-1014.02 says that a certified agreement prior to construction with a joint transmission development must be on file with the county. They cannot break ground without an agreement with WAPA. Thank you.
Bill, do you have a response to any of those? Several of those were concerns with the zoning department.
I have a question. Did your LLC change from what the application is on this permit? No, I'm asking these guys. I'm asking Reginald.
I'm sorry?
Did your LLC change, did you transfer the land out of the LLC from what you're asking to place it in now?
The land ownership has not changed. The instrument has the ownership.
Okay, so do you have it under a different name now than what you have on the application?
I don't have the application.
Well, it's right here. You got it there, Charlie? Where is it? Right here. I got it in my hand. Yeah, it's LLC, it's project, LLC Preston Trust is what I have.
So,
Is that what you're under right now, Reginald?
Reginald doesn't have anything to do with it.
Well, he's talking for you.
Well, he might have been, but he doesn't have
I
anything.
spoke as the second generation that will succeed.
Okay, then Don or Jack, tell me what name is this under
It
now?
was under, the lease is under 5 names.
Under what?
It's under 4 names.
Well, that's who has to be on the application. That's who's got to
I
be.
don't know
According
what
to,
has to be on the
according to state statute, we can only lease to the landowner, and this is not the correct name.
Okay, hang on just a minute, guys. Bill, what is the name on the application?
LLC Preston Trust.
Bill, what is the name on the application?
Situla Energy Preston Trust.
Has that changed since that application was applied for? Anybody?
The ownership hasn't changed.
No,
The name has changed.
then it's void.
Successors and assigns would probably apply in this case for us.
Pardon me?
Successors transfer it, such as if this project is transferred to Commissioner Snapper's. All the responsibilities convey. That would answer the land.
We're trying to give you, you know, a conditional use on property that isn't, you're not even claiming anymore. You've moved it into another LLC.
It was transferred because it was in John A. George
And that's fine, I get it, but that's what we should be dealing with right here. It should be right on this application. That's because it has not been approved.
Okay, please, hang on. Come up here, please, so everybody can hear what's going on. We can hear Russ, but we need to be able to hear everybody else, and it needs to get on the recording.
We didn't sign the conditional use permit application. We didn't even know what was on it.
Well, we can only.
And I think these were all trusts. They were all Preston trusts, and the land was how we inherited it.
There's a state statute, and you're welcome to take that with you. We can only issue that to a landowner, and if you've changed the name on this, how can we issue that to this landowner that doesn't exist?
Well, and I don't know. I can't answer.
I can't do that. Knowing
Kyle,
that
do you have
that's
an
not
answer
correct.
to that, being the legal representative?
On behalf of Sigil, we would just change the name to the correct LLC. The same landowner is applying, the same parties are applying. This isn't a substantial change, this is a ministerial change is what it amounts to. And so I think that's.
So the ownership hasn't changed,
No.
is that correct?
Not a bit.
I had emailed Bill exactly on how all the different parcels of land were titled. I emailed Bill out there previously, just to make sure we were clear. I ran through with our office and had every single parcel pulled the deeds and conveyed the deeds to Bill, so he knows where to put everything.
So would that have changed on this application? Different than what they applied for?
I think that was finalized right before the end of the year, that there was an issue that was going on, that they were transferring that land to get it all into one entity.
Okay, was that information changed, Bill, on the application?
It was just put down as Scotts Trust and it was never changed.
Or you mean Preston?
Situla can't
Sorry.
get, you know, they cannot.
Okay, one at a time, please. So what I'm trying to get to is that the initial application was made in the trust, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What has changed with that?
The ownership hasn't.
The ownership hasn't changed, but the name has.
One of those, my grandfather died in '68.
Okay.
So,
Now, let me ask you one follow-up question. If that changes, can that be done prior to us approving or disapproving that application? It's part of the application, so it hasn't been approved, it hasn't been disapproved. So whatever changes need to be made, whatever it says on there is what we're approving tonight. Is that correct?
Well, as far as, if you want it in the exact name of the landowner, I probably would have to have a change to that.
Okay.
That's who we're trying to approve tonight, I believe. The
Okay.
exact landowner, we're not approving it for anybody else but these people.
I would just say that in name, we're still the same landowner.
Okay, and
In reality,
Did you add or subtract anybody? You said there were several people in it. Did
no,
you add or
nobody
subtract?
added, subtracted.
Nobody's been added or subtracted?
No,
But
it's,
still-
it's,
but have you
all we-
eliminated the Preston Trust, or is it still active?
there never was a Preston Trust.
How can we apply for it under that name then?
Because I think what Situla did, which I wasn't party to, as far as the application was, is they glommed these things together in one truck, in one name.
so what we're discussing here is the name on the application.
Yes.
Is the name correct or not correct? Go ahead, Kyle.
The name is correct because the applicant is Situla Energy Project LLC. That
They
is the
cannot-
applicant.
Here's the statute. They can't apply for it. The landowner has to apply for this tonight. This is a landowner.
statute?
LLC is only issued to a landowner, not a trust, not to anybody with a land.
So a leasehold owner can't apply for a conditional use permit because we have a property interest as a leasehold?
It has, the lease goes with the land, just like a water right goes with the
I
land. It's-
understand.
So it's gotta be to the landowner, not Situate, pardon me, right here. Go to the second
Bill,
page, it's
do you
all
have
the
anything to
drawings.
add to this, please?
I do not.
Can only go to a landowner. It's highlighted right there for us.
Yeah, hang on just a sec. Don't let me forget you, please.
Go ahead,
Okay, I thought he was ready. Go ahead, Dave. Come on up.
I'd just like to say, one of my first comments was, this was gonna be a lawyer's dream, and this already.
We haven't even started.
So any little discrepancy anywhere in the future, it's gonna be up to the lawyer.
Okay, in the meantime, while you're researching that, just to keep things moving,
I don't agree with that, and I can give it to Dave.
okay?
But I don't agree because while it's talking about property owners, it's not saying to apply for a conditional use you can't, but it's using that.
It says land,
But it's not talking about the application, it's talking about the use that can be put to the property owner.
it has to be,
And I don't agree
it
that.
goes
it's a-
with the land,
I
it
don't
doesn't
agree
go
that
with the.
it's a fee ownership that's required.
Kim, you're, okay, that's why please, everybody that comes up here, please grab the cordless mic so that everybody in the room can hear. Really appreciate that. All right, while we're trying to sort this out, is there anybody else that wishes to speak against? Please, come on up. That one, there you go. All right.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. My name is Karen Weber Thornburg. I live at 2398 Road 38 Yoder. I'm from Goshen County, Wyoming. And I wanted to be here tonight to talk with you about the importance of comprehensive solar regulations. I've done a huge amount of research on the topic of solar energy, and I have some facts and information to share with you from a macro to a micro perspective, but also with an intent to help you.
You need to be a little closer to your mouth. They
To
can't
help
hear you in
you.
the back.
So uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. To help you in your decision making. I want to start by introducing some solar industry background information from a May 3rd article in the Cowboy State Daily titled, Wyoming May See the Next Land Rush for Utility-Sized Solar Farms. Wyoming is targeted, but so are all the western states. The BLM is awaiting this administration's approval to open up 22 million acres of public lands for utility-scale solar development in the West. Laura Cunningham, the California and Nevada director of the Watershed Project, said this is such a massive project for over 11 western states. What's driving this is the solar industry that wants everything incentivized by the Biden administration with tax breaks to open up more land. There is an expectation of a, quote, a flood of foreign and American applications getting submitted to the BLM beginning next year. So there is a lot that's coming all of our way. It's a flood. So, because of this flood of global financial partnerships that are coming our way, I have to share with you, in my extensive research, this is not about private property rights, not one individual's property rights or a group's property rights. This is about national sovereignty and national safety and security. If you research the websites of the foreign solar companies, you're going to find that they proudly proclaim the American West is wide open for renewable energy development. It's a wild, wild west gold rush for them. But I call it exploitation. Why? Because the overall motivation is greed and a need to control. You know, there's no judgment here. We've all been brought up in a culture of seeking money, greed, greed, greed. And we all have to fight against that on some level at some points in time. This is a great article. So that was this one. This is a great article from November of 23, very recently. Biden administration gave $3 billion loan to a solar company accused of scamming the elderly in Texas. This stuff really happens. It could happen here, especially you get overwhelmed with all these things that come in if you don't have these regulations in place to just be able to get through these things very quickly, these applications quickly. So what happened there was the name of the company in Texas. 50 consumer complaints were filed against Sonova. For example, an 86-year-old man with dementia was persuaded to sign a 25-year solar lease. One other example, an 80-year-old woman was blind, bedbound, partially deaf, on dialysis with congestive heart failure when a door-to-door Sonova salesman sold the elderly woman a 25-year, $86,000 contract. She died 3 months later, but her family had to deal with that. They are coming for our private lands for by whatever means necessary, and their very first sales tactic always is to promise a large amount of money. The motivation is greed, and really and truly, in a sense, we should feel sad about that because it is a sickness of the soul. People get dazzled by the money, and honestly, they just can't see anything else. But there's so much more involved with what's happening in our country. An article from Lonesome Lands, right there, dated December of 23, still recent, is titled "An Attack on Farmers and Ranchers That No One Is Talking About." In it, John Kerry is quoted as saying, listen to this, "Agriculture contributes about 33% of all the emissions in the world, and we can't get to zero. We don't get to get this job done unless we cut emissions from the food system." So here we have a politician telling us how to produce food without any emissions. This is not about climate change. This is about national sovereignty and national safety. It's about food security. This is a war against agriculture. He basically said that. This article from November of 23 is titled, "United Nations Set to Call on Americans to Reduce Meat Consumption." And they spell it all out there. Jeremy Kohler, the chair and founder of the FAIRR initiative. It's an investor network that works with financial institutions to promote climate-friendly agriculture worldwide, said in a recent statement, "The failure of leading meat and dairy companies to reduce emissions underlies the urgent..." Oh, darn. I have so much to share. I am so sorry. I've run out of my 5 minutes. I have... Can I jump to a little bit more? Do you have to... Would you be willing to give me a few minutes? No? Okay.
Well, everybody else did.
Okay. I will be quick. So, the reason why this ties in with solar regulations is because we can learn from what has happened to other people, the pitfalls, and when we have comprehensive solar regulations, it's a tool. It is a tool for you. What I'm seeing here tonight, see, I've been through this in my county, and what I'm seeing you go through is exactly what it took us all, what we all had to go through. You wouldn't have to do that again. You would not have to reinvent the wheel. You have an opportunity to vet the businesses and individuals, which will protect the citizen from harms, promote economic stability, and ensure that the businesses operate in a way that is transparent and accountable. It does separate the speculators from the dedicated business investors that want to become real partners in your community. That's the benefit of having some comprehensive solar regulations. And so I have lots and lots of examples. I know I'm going off my time. Cokeville, this is one of those. Before the pandemic had started, they still haven't had anything done. The mayor and the county commissioner says, we don't know what's going on. There's possible litigation. They've changed ownership so many times. And here's the problem. If you don't have it in your regulations that says that they need, every time there's an ownership change, they have to notify you. Because when these things go wrong and they go bad, somebody has to get a call. Somebody has to be found. And there's many, many times, lots of examples, lots and lots of examples where they can't be found. In the solar business, in the last year, at least 100 of them have gone out of business. That doesn't include all the ones that are really seriously on the edge. They've been given billions of dollars and they're still not surviving. The reason why there's so many owners is because it's it's like a dice game. And they're playing with you, with everything that you've worked hard for, everything. And everything that will be here when we're no longer here. That's the game they're playing because of money.
Okay,
So,
I'm gonna,
all right. I appreciate
in fairness to everybody else, and
All right.
we appreciate your comments.
I do have a copy of our final draft that we worked on very, very hard.
Okay.
This would be a guideline for you. Please.
Very good. If you would leave that with Kelly, we'd appreciate that.
I will do this all
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
There you go. Thank you.
Will you point out?
Would you like go ahead? Come on up. Okay.
I'd just like to make one comment on her story to you guys is, she's talking
You,
ownership.
use the regular mic, the other mic, please.
Just one
Okay,
comment on,
can we hold it down for just a minute, folks? Thank you.
if I understood her arguments, she keeps referring to ownership and how she brought up a case of dementia patients and all that. Here we got families that are longevity family that's been in the area forever. So I don't believe they're being taken advantage of, and it's not change of ownership.
Okay.
They still own the land. So her arguments, I don't know. I mean, I get where she's coming from, but it's not
Sure.
the same thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else now that would like to speak against the project?
Or just speak on it, I mean, I can
Or
speak on, just.
Speak on it, yeah,
Just
that's
speak
what,
on it.
that's, we've lost control anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
That's right.
Doing my best here. Anybody else that wishes to speak? Anybody else? Okay. We're gonna come back to the board. Charlie, I think you had some other additional things you were looking at on the,
Yeah, Scott, I got a couple questions for Scott. What is the Saline Energy Project?
Celine, it was one of the ones, I'm not exactly sure 100% on the status of it now. Thayer and I haven't talked about it recently. I think it was one of the ones in our development portfolio at one point.
Okay. What is the Energy Bridge Energy Project?
I don't know.
Okay, that's another one that you listed on your slideshow for us. What is the Ash Creek Energy Project?
I'm assuming, basis of your earlier comment, that
You're
it's one of the
assuming?
ones in the
Okay, you're not
in the
for sure.
portfolio.
So you're not for sure.
I've been focused on Situla.
Okay. What is the Hanley Energy Project? Safe to assume here. Hanley?
Land use.
Mr. Chairman, I ask for a determination of relevance of this line of questioning to the land use.
okay. Did everybody hear what Kyle had to say?
I'll go ahead. I'll keep going here. What is the Acela Energy Project?
I would say the same thing. I'm not sure that this is germane to a land use planning
I'll keep
consideration.
I'll keep going. What is the Astor Energy Project?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would please ask that we maintain this to relevant questioning.
Okay, so these are projects that Situla Energy have presented to us as part of their portfolio of energy projects. They listed these projects in a PowerPoint presentation to during town halls and to the planning commission and to an email directly to me. And these are projects that Dunlay Energy have claim are part of their energy portfolio. They provided this list of their portfolio to inspire confidence in you that they have knowledge on how to pull off these sorts of projects.
I'm happy, Commissioner, to give you background on every single one of those projects. If those projects were listed in the slide deck presentation, then they were real, albeit maybe in various stages of development. But for you to insinuate that we're somehow trying to mislead the process is not appropriate.
Okay. So here, just an example here. I called down to, I think it's Juab County, Utah Planning and Zoning Administrator Colby Park on April 15th. I asked him if he'd ever heard of the Saline Energy Project. He told me he did not. I asked him if he had ever, I asked him if a 250 megawatt project permit had ever been applied for in his county, and if so, would he know of such a thing? He said he most certainly would. I then asked him if he had ever heard of Dunlay Energy or Scott Ickes or Thayer Flay. He told me he had never heard of those folks. Energy Bridge Project. This is Burke County, Georgia. I called Planning Director Scott Lee. He told me the same thing. He'd never heard of Dunlay Energy, or Thayer Flay, Ash Creek. Didn't get a hold of anybody there. Graham County, Arizona. This is the Hanley Energy Project, and this is where I heard a very interesting comment. I'm asked if he had heard of Scott Ickes, Thayer Flay, Dunlay Energy, and he said the only time I've heard those names is when other people have called to ask me if I've ever heard of these names. Elko County Planning and Zoning Director from Elko County, Nevada, also told me the same thing. Never heard of Dunlay Energy, Thayer Flay, or the Wells Energy Project. So these are projects that Dunlay has portrayed that they are in the process of building these projects or getting permits for these projects when really they haven't even started. They're only thoughts in their minds at this point. They have not even contacted these counties to start the permitting process. So to call them projects is and to put them in your slide deck as
Yeah, once
as a
again,
means to instill confidence in us for this project is misleading at best.
once again, Commissioner, I think you're demonstrating your ignorance of the project development process,
All right,
if
we'll
you will.
keep going here.
I mean,
keep
no,
going
no, you raised the issue,
Okay.
so I'm going to speak to it.
Okay.
Hang on, just
Can I ask a question real
I'd like
quick?
to hear from Mr. Long, who's the
Yes.
counsel for this project. I think he's asking this gentleman questions which he doesn't have, the resources to respond. And I think
These are his
Kyle's-
projects. This is his slide deck that he sent to me.
I think I'd like to hear Kyle respond to
May
some
I,
of this stuff.
Mr. Maben, where you at? Sorry. When did you first hear of Dunlay and Situla?
Sometime around maybe August, they contacted me.
Just shortly after they were,
2023.
right, when they were begin the application process. They contacted you when they were beginning the application
Made a phone
process. Okay, Mr. Napper, have you been?
Knapper.
Knapper,
K
excuse
is
me.
not silent.
Have you been to our open house?
Yes.
Okay, and in that open house, did Mr. Ickes say that this is the lead project for Dunlay Energy? This is the most advanced project as far as where they are in the development cycle?
Yes.
Okay, now, you've seen our application, you've seen WAPA's feasibility study, correct, Mr. Maben?
Yes.
And you realize we submitted that back in 2022. And we didn't actually come to Scotts Bluff County for a conditional use permit until we had a favorable feasibility study from WAPA, is that correct?
As far as I know.
The issue is, if you don't look at the project, the way these development projects put together, things may seem a little bit out of sorts.
Okay.
But these are long-term projects. There's a land lease that's been negotiated long before Scotts Bluff knew about this. There was feasibility studies done with the federal government well before Scotts Bluff knew anything about the application. That's how these processes work. And so, with this being the lead, we've admitted that this is the lead, we've admitted that this is the first, we've admitted this is the most advanced. And so with that being the case, if other conditional use permits are not in, one of the other projects that we were just talking to Mr. Flay about recently here down in Arizona, actually, we're getting a project that has a conditional use permit already.
Okay, I'll
So-
retract my comments.
Okay.
Scott, who is Jessica Singh?
Jessica Singh was a consultant that worked with Dunlay Energy here over the course of 2023. I'm not sure when she started, but yeah, my understanding is her consulting agreement, her assignment ended at the end of 2023.
That's what at the end of 23.
That was my understanding. I wasn't a party to it. That was between her and Thayer.
Okay, well, she's listed on your slide deck as the offtake origination. That's all it says. Jessica Singh, offtake origination. That's her duty with Dunlay on this slide deck that you sent to me in April? Or was this? That must have been after our meeting in February. So in 2024, you listed her as your offtake origination. person?
Yeah, she engaged in some origination work for as I say, for Dunlay, but to the extent that she was included in a slide deck and subsequently circulated to you, then that was in error, because as I say, her my understanding, I wasn't a party to her agreement, but my understanding was her consulting agreement ended at the end of 2023.
In that slide deck, you also have one of your first slides. You've got a bunch of screenshots of solar energy companies that the team has worked with. You know, you got a screenshot of a Samsung logo. You've got a screenshot of a Tesla logo. You got a screenshot of an ExxonMobil logo. Again, I imagine you do this to convey confidence or inspire confidence in us. But you know, nowhere in the slide deck or anywhere in the conversations we've had with you have you provided any sort of references from these companies or shown any project to completion with these companies. So I just wanted to point that out. There's
So I would respond by saying the principals of Dunlay had worked for a dozen years prior to starting Dunlay Energy, and had my understanding is that completed projects working with those companies. So that's where those, you know, in a prior capacity to starting Dunlay, that they had worked on projects for another solar developer for and engaged with those companies. So so that's where those references came from.
Okay.
Bill, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, I've got a number of things. I got to wait.
All right, I have one question to ask. During the meetings of the zoning commission, was anything brought up about the reputation of this company, or the background of the company, or any information that would be detrimental to approving this conditional use permit?
Talking to me?
Yes.
They didn't really there was questions asked about who was involved in the companies during the planning commission hearing.
Okay. Was that part of the conditional use permit? Was the reputation of this company? I didn't see it on here, but is there a concern with that?
Well, for the planning commission's a land use policy committee, so they don't necessarily look at who the applicant is. It's more about what the application for.
What it's going to be used for?
Right.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Charlie.
Let me ask a question. Do you do a 5-minute break? How's that?
I've got a long ways to go.
I know
I like to
do too.
keep
I have
rolling.
one
Is
question
what I like to do.
If I get one in here.
Go ahead if you like.
Just write your question down and we'll.
Finish your train of thought, Charlie.
Can you define what? You said that the WAPA feasibility study was completed with positive results. Can you define what you mean when you say positive results?
I would say at this point they didn't find sufficient challenges with the project with the application to discontinue the application process at that point in time. They've let it continue. So we're still working our way through, and we're engaged with WAPA, and we're still working through the interconnect study and ultimately leading to an interconnect agreement.
So in Billy's packet to us, he includes 2 pages from the feasibility study. I've got the entire feasibility study right here. So let's just go through that a little bit here, because I don't know that we have the same definition as positive results. I think your explanation just now makes more sense, that they're not going to stop the process of continuing to study this, but to say positive results might be a stretch. The cost for interconnecting to a 230 kV transmission line between Stegall and Archer substations, the cost is $15 million. That would be in addition to, that would be a cost borne by Situla.
That's my understanding. The project has to pay those costs.
interconnection service in and of itself does not convey transmission service. Additional system upgrades may be identified when a transmission request for the output of the solar project is studied. So it's my understanding that a transmission request hasn't been requested yet, just the interconnection feasibility study.
Transmission studies being undertaken with the interconnect study right now. They're both undergoing underneath the initial interconnect application.
Okay.
Both of those studies are going at the same time, the interconnect study and the transmission.
Do you have a copy of the other study?
Huh?
Do you
No,
have a
there-
copy of the
there
other
isn't
study?
another study.
Pardon me?
There isn't another study, that's the only study.
It's the only
But
study
you
that's
said
been
they went in
completed.
at the same time, there's two of them going at the same time.
No, there's an additional interconnect study which we're in, which would go to the interconnect agreement. The transmission study is involved in that as well.
So we haven't got any results on that.
Which means the bill for that Situla has to pay WAPA for system upgrades is likely to go up if they identify an issue, but that's essentially what we do.
So $15 million for upgrades according to the interconnects study, but no transmission study dollar amounts have been included yet. Again, this says this study is for interconnection only. No transmission capacity is determined nor guaranteed by this study. A transmission service is studied through a transmission service request. Nowhere in here does it say the transmission study is ongoing.
We wrote the check after we got that.
Okay. Delivery of power, no statement of intent for sale of energy was included in the application. What about, sounds like there's a third study that has to happen, a facilities study. When does that happen?
My understanding is that's part of the larger project study that WAPA will conduct at the appropriate time in the overall. I think it comes after the initial feasibility study and the system study. That's my understanding right now. So, I mean, Commissioner Knapper, if there's a menu of questions you have that are related to the WAPA interconnect study process, I think it would be better to maybe list those questions, and then I can refer those to Thayer's he's an electrical system planning engineer, and as I say, he's been involved in many utility scale solar development projects. So he's more of a subject matter expert with respect to the WAPA interconnect agreement than I am. So I'd be happy to get you, I answer all your questions with respect to the process that WAPA administers to take a utility scale solar project down the study and ultimately interconnection path.
Scott, can I ask you one quick question?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Would this project continue if you didn't have an agreement with WAPA?
No. No, it's impossible. It has to connect to the...
Pretty much answers all of it then, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's a couple of areas that are...
You're not going to spend $825 million on a project and nowhere to sell the power to.
It's not a behind the meter, it's not going
Okay.
to some like industrial user behind the meter. It has to connect
And I think
to WAPA.
I think everybody's waiting for the approval of the project before anything is signed from here on out. Would that be a correct statement?
Approval of the project in terms of
from this board tonight.
Oh,
or whatever.
yeah. I mean, this is part of the challenge associated with, like I would say, unfamiliarity with the project development process. This CUP or zoning permit is an enabler to the next steps in the process, right? They are path dependent with respect to our ability to basically sign an offtake agreement with someone, a PPA. If we can't get a favorable zoning, I should say CUP approval, we can't even hold those discussions because, you know, any interested counterparty is going to turn to us and say, you don't even have your zoning permit, right?
A lot is hinging on whether it's going to be permitted tonight or not.
Absolutely.
The
Not the least
contract,
of which
the
are
contract
the
with
discussions
WAPA,
with our investors.
exactly,
Yeah.
because we're not sure. We don't know.
Unknown and
Somebody
unknowable,
brought up
right.
foreign investors or whatever the case might be. If you're going to build a skyscraper in New York City, there may be some names on there that you can't pronounce. Correct?
Yeah.
And that doesn't really matter. And it shouldn't matter here. The
Not-
only one it should matter to is the Prestons.
Not at this stage, right? The key is the zoning permit, because that puts us in a position to have commercial offtake discussions, right? Continue down the path of getting our initial development capital to continue the engineering development process, right? There's a lot of aspects to this project that are running in parallel. Any utility scale solar project. So, and we're still very early in the overall process, right? The zoning permit enables many of the steps downstream, if you will,
That are waiting to wait to see what happens here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have some questions now. I'd like to step in here. Scott, I just have a
Talk into
couple
your mic, please, so they can hear you in the
Okay.
background.
I have a couple questions here. Talking to Kyle here, he doesn't believe that this land has to be leased to the landowner, or the CUP doesn't have to be leased to the landowner. It can be leased to anyone, is the way he's describing. Just a minute, let me proceed. I'm
sorry.
laying it out. Let me ask
I'm
my
sorry,
question,
Russ.
and then I'd like your legal opinion, and I'd like your opinion. What I'm gonna ask you is, so whose name is on the lease? Is it Preston Trust?
No, Situla Energy Project LLC,
And whose name are they leasing from?
from the Prestons. I don't exactly know which entity. Rick and
Well,
Hager from my office
wouldn't this
handle
be,
that.
when you're proposing this application, you got it Preston Trust, and that's what you're saying it's under, is the lease with the Preston Trust? That's what I'm trying to find out. Do you have a copy of the lease with you, Kyle?
I've actually never seen my lease because of the referral from Rick to me, and the way it's worked, I've screened myself from that part.
So the lease is to my grandparents' estates and my parents' estates
And what's
and successors.
Okay, so what's the name of it? You've got Preston Trust here, but they say that's not who owns the land.
What I said earlier was I think they just, rather than writing all the names all out, we have individual leases with every landowner. And the landowner, at the time the lease was signed, which was a year and a half ago,
Okay, whose name is it leased? Who are you, what are you leasing it under? The name of your lease?
right now it's leasing under us because we're successors.
It just says us.
No, it says Preston Peters Trust.
Preston
Preston
what?
Peters LLC.
Okay, that's not on this.
I
application.
understand that.
So how can we give it to Preston Peters LLC when it's asking for it under Preston Trust?
It's not. It's asking it for under Situla Energy Project LLC.
Okay, have you consummated the lease? Are you collecting full rent?
Yes.
You're getting full rent on it right now? It's consummated?
Yeah. No.
You're not
We're-
you're not collecting any money?
Yes, we're collecting money under an option.
Under an option, but do they actually have it leased? You're telling me that they can lease
They
it,
have an option to lease it.
right? But
And
if
they
the lease
don't,
hasn't-
they don't pay any lease money until they start construction. So when they start construction, they pay lease money.
Okay, and what does that have to do with the use permit?
Well, the
Folks?
thing is, it's not being applied for under their correct name, is what I'm trying to get at. It's not, if they've applied it for under my name,
Let's assume they can fix that.
Yes, it's a clerical thing,
Right, let's
yes.
assume they can fix it.
wouldn't that have been something been nice if you'd have done that prior to this?
Well, I'm not sure. I question that whether or not we're gonna get to the point tonight of taking a vote on approving this permit or not. And, then that may indeed get them the opportunity to fix it. But to me, it seems like it seems like a minor technicality to me. I mean, I think it needs to be done, it needs to be fixed, and maybe we shouldn't vote on it until it's fixed, but I still think it's minor.
I think we could get to a conclusion if we stay in our own lanes. And that's what we're not doing. We're worried about things that have nothing to do Absolutely nothing to do with the conditional use permit. None. Would we question the same thing if it were a feedlot or if it were a chicory plant or whatever the case
And
might
if
be?
they came in with the wrong name, you'd just endorse that. Is that what you're telling me?
It's a clerical thing that can be fixed, Russ. In my opinion, I'm not an attorney. Maybe these guys can clarify it.
It's under the correct applicant name, the applicant.
Do you have a copy of it here?
Scotts Energy Project LLC.
Do you have a copy of this? Is what we're talking about, so there's no copy of it here?
The county has it.
We don't have the application for the permit here? I thought this was what we were looking at here.
We have filed with the county. The permit's on file with the county.
And is it filed under Situla
I just
or
got
under
this-
Preston Trust?
Under the applicant, it's
I just got this
Okay.
tonight.
Under the project, it's Scotts Energy
Okay.
Project LLC.
request application says Situla Energy Project LLC.
That was what they brought in first, then we added the Preston Trust. I
Right.
believe I saw that on the beacon map, on the property owner map, we added that because we
Okay.
wanted to make sure there was ownership included with it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. Can you not change those kind of things prior to that coming to us?
We did that because we wanted to make sure there was
Okay.
representative from the owners.
So the initial application was under one name, somebody else changed it to something else. Until it's approved, does it really matter?
I would defer that to council.
I would too.
By the time it comes to us, we should have a name that we're going to approve,
And we
correct?
don't- And we don't.
Yes. And I think Kyle, explained that.
So
We
if
should have a
if we
copy of
don't,
it right here in front of us. I mean, if
so
it's there, we
so
ought to have
does
it,
that mean we need to deny this one and they need to reapply?
I would say.
Isn't that what the planning commission approves then?
I think if anything, you should table it.
Well, I've got some more things here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this sounds to me like it's a filibuster against the project. I think the commissioners should stand up to the plate and vote tonight and now.
I'm standing up all night long. I'm gonna be in the batter's box all night long.
You're doing a filibuster. You just wanna move the Lincoln and practice that.
I got another question. I got another point here. This is from Marvin Planning Consultants. This is from Marvin Planning Consultants, the firm we hired to do the supplemental review. It says, the Scotts Bluff County zoning regulations do not define solar farms, solar conversion systems, or solar projects at individual or utility scales, nor are they listed permitted or conditional uses. A defining principle of zoning regulation is any uses which are not specifically listed are prohibited. That is a defining principle of zoning regulation. Nebraska Revised Statute 114.03 requires zoning regulations to be consistent with the adopted comprehensive development plan and designed for the purpose of promoting the health, safety, morals, convenience, order, prosperity, and welfare of the present and future inhabitants of Nebraska. So this is where we go. This is where we get back to what several people have brought up tonight. Is we don't have the zoning or the regulations for a facility this size. That is why I believe we should deny this permit until we have proper zoning regulations in place. This is too big for a group of 5 people to come up with 1,000 conditions to put on this project to keep everyone safe. This is why companies like Situla are looking at Nebraska and Wyoming to come in here and get these permits before we have the regulations in place. They're coming here because this is the easiest place to put such a thing, because we don't have the regulations.
I would just like to say I disagree.
Yeah, why wouldn't we put it in Banner County where there's no zoning? We came to Scotts Bluff County, we applied for a conditional use permit, we complied with every ordinance set forth by Scotts Bluff County in your zoning ordinances. And while you may have issue with the zoning ordinances, the way they exist, this conditional use permit that was filed under the existing ordinances is in full compliance with. And when the planning commission had issues, Situla did nothing but say, okay, we will start engaging. We had community meetings. We engaged with Mr. Maven many times to try to make sure that we were addressing concerns. We're addressing concerns that aren't even in the ordinances. Because you tell me how you get a road use agreement out of those ordinances. You tell me how you get a decommissioning bond out of those ordinances, the way that they're sitting there right now. Because otherwise, 71,001.1 says the decommissioning bond doesn't have to be paid for 10 years. And they just, Senator Burr just amended it to 6. But in normal practice at the state level, they said that in default, a decommissioning bond doesn't have to be paid for 10 years. Situla has come and listened to every concern and tried to address the ones that are, especially the ones that are relevant to land use planning.
So I sent Scott an email back in February or March and then never got a response. And I'll just read that email to you. So the fact that your claim that he's responding to every single concern is a far cry. And we'll go.
Does it pertain to land use planning? Or did it pertain to things like the company, like W-2s of their employees?
Situla has maintained since the beginning that they plan to build and operate and sell electricity from this facility. They have misrepresented that fact. They do not plan to build. They do not plan. That is my opinion. They do not plan to build. They do not plan to operate. But they have told us that out of their mouths, and that is a far cry from what their intentions are.
Who's told you otherwise?
It's clear because
No.
they don't have the team to pull off such a thing.
Who's told you otherwise? Who has told you that Situla is not going to do what they've said they're going to do?
It's clear that they can't pull it off.
Why? How's it clear?
Well, I think these questions that I asked would be answered if they were able to pull off, if they had a plan.
Who has said that Situla is not planning to build and operate this facility?
They have said so much because they have not been able to answer the questions presented. Their lack of ability to answer the question is them saying they do not plan to build the facility.
Well, their lack of answering which question?
I would like to put a condition on this permit that the only entity able to build a solar farm with this permit is Situla Energy as it exists today.
If it's a corporation or it's an LLC, they can trade that to anybody and it's just a name.
As it exists today, the principals of the company, their current employees.
This is a zoning issue. This is a land use issue.
Why are we questioning the integrity of the company that applied for the permit?
What a novel concept. What a novel concept.
We have a company that is going to put a solar farm on private property. They're going to lease the property. The county doesn't own it. The county doesn't own the land. The county doesn't own the property or the project.
Maybe
Why are we concerning ourselves with the integrity of the company that made the application? I don't know. I don't know whether they're upstanding or not. I have no idea. But I'm assuming if they made the application.
Maybe the Prestons should just make the application.
This is not the last opportunity the board's going to have to provide input, correct? We have to get a building permit. We're not ready to start pouring concrete and bending metal tomorrow. We've got a long way to go. And the reality is, this is not the last time the board is going to have input into this process, right? In terms of this project move forward. Am I wrong on that, Bill?
Not necessarily. Once the permit is issued, everything goes through Bill's office. We probably will not hear anything about it other than a complaint about something that's not happening or whatever the case might be. And that'll go through the building and zoning department.
Then I retract that. That's
Yeah.
my misunderstanding. So
Yeah, this will be the final step.
But I mean, as a practical matter, as we go down the path of the project development process, I mean, we're going to need a lot of interaction with the county, you know, and the city, as we move forward, as we execute, you know, many of the items that are included in the CUP. So,
The
yeah.
comprehensive plan says that it is, the county plan is an important consideration and a positive finding that the location and characteristics of the use will not be injurious to the health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the area. So you have to consider who's building this. You have to consider all of these things when considering who's applying for the conditional use permit. I'll just put the condition on there right now. Situla has to build this as they exist today. With the principles they have today, with the construction crew they operate today, with the engineers they have today. That's where I'm at.
So what happens if this doesn't happen and Acme comes in to build this? We start over?
There'll have to be a new conditional use permit.
Why? Doesn't it seem
Because that's a condition I'm putting on it.
But doesn't it seem really inefficient?
No.
Well, because if the question before this panel, is this an appropriate land use? Is the creation of a solar facility an appropriate land use if we put these right conditions in place and whoever does it follows it? That's honestly the question that's here. It's not about who's building it. We don't do conditional use permits that are specifically limited. We're making a decision based upon, is this right for the land? Is this right for our community?
Charlie, what in your opinion, what are the safety concerns that have come up more than once?
The safety concerns?
Safety concerns.
You know, we don't have a fire department out there that can put out a fire that happens out there. We don't know
What's going to catch on fire?
We have lithium batteries, 200-volt lithium batteries that are 200 megawatt.
That are in a confined building with a fire suppression system. Correct? Am I wrong with that?
Not a confined building. They are separated
Okay.
tanks with fire suppression inside, with gravel. They're spaced out, and then you've got gravel and non-flammable.
With a fire suppression system to extinguish it,
Right inside.
filled with the product that's going to put the fire out.
As far as those types of things.
I haven't heard anything that you can put out lithium. What do they use to put that out?
Batteries, you can flood them, you can put them in a swimming pool. A Tesla battery catches fire, you can put it in a swimming pool for weeks. Pull them out of that swimming pool and it'll catch fire. What are you gonna use to put that fire out with? Where are you gonna get the water? Or whatever chemical you're gonna use? What happens to the battery in the pool? Does it cool off? Pardon me? Does the battery in the pool cool off? Yes or no? Probably yes. Therefore, it loses the heat energy to combust. Yes. There's been studies that bring them out, saying they bring them out of the water. I'm not saying
Okay,
bring it out of the
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Well, this is why we need to have a proper zoning plan, because the last one was made in 1996. It does not address solar energy.
It doesn't
Okay.
Especially as solar exists today.
And I'm not disagreeing with the fact that we need more regulations on this whole project, on any future projects. But the point is when that application was made, it was made with the zoning regulations that were in place at the time the permit was applied for. You can't go back and add more things to it after the permit has been made.
No, but this is a conditional use permit.
Right?
And as it is a conditional use permit, we can apply conditions.
Right.
And that's, oh, sorry, yeah.
You're gonna get
And so anyway, we can apply conditions. And that's part of our responsibility. And, I have a few thoughts, when you're ready for them.
Okay, well, Charlie, you wanna?
Yeah, we got just one more thing while it's on the top of my mind.
Go ahead.
Battery energy storage systems, for one, is a rapidly evolving technology, and different jurisdictions are taking different regulatory approaches. Some places accept BESS as typical accessory uses to wind and solar, while others are treating BESS as a new and distinct use. I'm just gonna call it BESS. BESS have unique risks associated with battery chemistries. According to the American Planning Association's Battery Energy Storage Systems Zoning Practice Report, the National Fire Prevention Association Standard 855 sets safety code thresholds for batteries. Operators of facilities with total energy storage exceeding 600 kilowatt must complete a hazard mitigation analysis, utilize fire suppression designs and equipment, conduct fire and explosion testing, develop emergency planning, conduct annual training of maintenance staff. These are things that do not exist in our current zoning regulations. Battery storage systems, no one here has heard of battery storage systems before this project. And your layperson in the county, I mean, the regulations were made in 1996. There's no way this board, where none of us have been electrical engineers or professionals in solar energy or battery systems, there's no way that we can come up with the important and necessary regulations and conditions to put on this permit. There's no way we can do it. It is completely over our heads. We have to deny this permit to protect the county from what we don't know.
So that was one of the points of the ERP call we had today with the state fire marshal's office, the local deputy fire marshals, and the Lyman, Kiowa, and Gering fire captains, right? So what we committed to and are going down the path of doing is building an industry best practices emergency response plan, fire safety plan for this project. Right? It's going to basically be using industry best practices from 2023, not the 2012 list of fire codes that the state is currently operating under. It's going to be the latest, I would say, technology associated with fire safety and emergency response planning. That was one of the points of today's call.
Even though that's not covered in our zoning regulations, correct?
Right. In that regard, I believe we're going above and beyond.
Okay.
Asking them to go above and beyond, or their willingness to go above and beyond, does not protect us. They can still back off and do the bare minimum, which was set in 1996 or 2012, and legally they can still do that. They can back off if they need to. If this project runs over 900 million, which the estimates I've heard is over $1 billion to do this project. If costs overrun, they're gonna take shortcuts because it's because they can.
That is
because
untrue, because
hold on, I'm not done yet.
That's completely untrue. We have a design review. The state fire marshal tells us what our requirements are that we have to comply for the state fire marshal. That's the design review process that the state fire marshal's office tells us what we have to do. If we cannot achieve what the state fire marshal's office tells us we can do, we never go active. We can't run out of money and say, oh, we're not going to follow fire code. We're not going to follow. And by the way, the fire marshal will enforce beyond fire code if that's part of the design review and what we've come up with. So that's really, I'm sorry, that's really not nice to say it like that. And I've got other words going through my head, but to intimate that this company is going to cut corners, that it's going to run out of money, and that we're going to endanger the public because we're going to cut the fire code out without a shred of proof. Really?
If the regulations allow you to do it,
Your regulations don't deal with the fire code. The fire marshal does. Your regulations never deal with the fire code.
we don't have regulations. I mean, we need regulations.
Okay, hang on.
Just regulation.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I suggest that we table this because we're gonna be here till 2 o'clock in the morning and we're never gonna reach a decision.
I'll make a motion to deny the permit as it sits today.
Have we closed the public hearing?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Just one thing that would be really helpful to you. I don't know if you know this or not, but oh yeah, sorry about that. The Department of Homeland Security actually has a 93-page PDF. It's titled Firefighter Safety and Emergency for Solar Power Systems. Explain all that's required, because solar panels don't ever go out, and the majority of them, according to this other person, they're from the photovoltaics. The problem is if you don't have electricians doing it, you've got techs doing it, it happens up underneath somehow. At any rate, they are very, very difficult to put out. When I saw a picture of the proposed plan, they go right up to the fence. What about an easement? How are you going to get a fire truck in there? People are going to die. In fact, that does happen a lot. It happens a little more, I think, with solar, with residential solar. But if your volunteers don't know how to stay safe, you're going to have a death if it ever happens. Hopefully it doesn't, but just to let you know that PDF will really help you a lot.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a we've been going here for almost 2.5 hours. We're going to take a short 5-minute, and we're going to come back and resume. I would like to get as much information out as we can, and I don't disagree with you. We may have to cut it off here at some point, but a lot of folks took time out of their day to have a say, and I think we need to give them that opportunity.
Well, the only thing is that you did ask for,
Sir?
against and for.
Right.
And we got to the point where.
Nobody was paying attention to it. Yeah,
Well, they didn't respond to that point.
I tried.
You had a couple intro.
I'm not voting for it. You can